Shirt show. All right, let's go.
Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Talking shirt! Shirt show! Shirt man!
All right! Episode 90 of Shirt Show. We're talking with Lon from Graphic Elephants in Colorado. Let's go!
Hey there, handsome.
Howdy.
I like that fresh Dixon you got on there.
Well, it's not so fresh. It was from you like a year ago.
I know, but I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, fresh to you. Hey, quick, before we get too far in here, am I really loud like last time?
That's good.
Because Chad was super pissed.
I told you.
He said, what was wrong with you? And you're screaming into the microphone.
I told you, like, every time you said something, it fucking, like, peaked out.
Yeah, you know, he can level stuff, right? But he said that it was, he did that to mine, but it was still distorting.
I texted you probably like 4 times during the episode, and I was like, please pull your mic away.
Yeah. It's been so long. I feel like it's been a week.
About a week
Yeah.
since, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about how your week went.
Dude, it bipped so hard, like fucking hard. Hard bippage.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
Yeah, we were in the same bippage, but I feel like over the past week it's on a uphill trajectory. We got some really big orders coming, and they kind of paid for them at the end of last week. So I'm gonna get everything ordered tomorrow and go. But we're still working on some stuff that came in, so we should be good. But January, February is just that. It's just the way it is every year.
I guess
our
January was, oh my God, I think I cut myself. Look at this. It's a huge wound.
Is it huge wound? Gash? Oh my gosh. Call this off. Call the ER.
Go to urgent care?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Or I could be like on Yellowstone and just staple it right now.
Yeah, do
Get a
it.
stapler.
Just put some super glue in it.
So I think we're sort of the same as you. January was, for us anyway, was really great. Like we set a record, super strong. And then it just fell off. And these past 2 weeks have sucked so bad, or 3 weeks, whatever it's been, like our slowest since, I guess, last February. And we had, and then on top of all that, we've had these snow days because it just keeps coming.
That's what she said. Anything else this week? Any new hires? Any new challenges? Did you break any toilets?
About last week or this week?
Last week. The one that
The week
happened
begins on
before this
Sunday.
weekend.
Today is the first day of the week.
Okay, last week.
Look at the calendars. All calendars have Sunday as the first day of the week. So you're
Times
talking about
construct.
last week.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Such an asshole. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I take it back. You're doing a good job.
Thanks.
So let's see. Last week. So I think I told you we hired somebody and she's working out great. I interviewed somebody like 2 weeks ago. So we have an open spot in shipping and receiving. That's pretty much, I think that's our last. Yeah, that's it. We need somebody, a second person. And so we have, the idea is there's a shipping and receiving manager and she's going to manage, and then she needs an assistant, I suppose. So that's what it would be called. Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
And, ready? New press coming.
You got everything lined up? You got the forklift? You got...
Nope. I'm doing that tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, doing that tomorrow. Getting of course, the extenders.
Is it just the press?
Yeah.
So it'll be what, two crates?
I think 3 because there's quite a few print heads, Dilly.
Yeah.
They usually do the last.
Yeah, but sometimes they stack them on top of each other. I think when I got the gauntlet, it was 2 on top of each other. Like it was just this massive stack.
You know what?
But there might be a third small one that's just like pallets and squeegees and flood bars and stuff.
I was going to say, here's what happened last time. This is super interesting stuff. Ready? Crate number 1, the press, like the main core, right?
Yes.
Crate number 1, press. Crate number 2, print heads, just like you just said, double stacked.
Yep.
Crate number 3, pallets, pallet arms.
I
that's
didn't think about the pallet arms. That's right.
That's it. Yeah. 3.
Yeah, I fucked up. You were right. So I had an interesting week. Just normal print stuff. But then Wednesday, we decided to go for a drive and we went to New Jersey.
The Jersey Shore?
Yeah, we went to the Jersey Shore, got real tan.
Did some laundry?
Did some laundry. I spiked my hair up in the front, dyed it all black.
Went to the gym.
Yeah, I got so swole. And then after that, we went to S&S warehouse.
I heard you say that just now, but I wanted to back up and remind you that, do you know on Jersey Shore, they all had jobs at a t-shirt shop?
I have never, ever once wanted to watch that show or have any desire to watch that show.
There's a difference between wanting to watch it and watching it.
You watched it all, didn't you?
Definitely more than you. I don't know how much. Enough that I saw they all worked at this t-shirt shop on the boardwalk. Yeah.
Is that real?
Yeah. That's true.
Like one of those shit ones that says like horrible sayings and stuff.
Oh yeah. Something like that. When you go in and they had some pre-printed ready to go, but also if you wanted to get that on that shirt or whatever, they would transfer it or something. So yeah, which by the way, we can go to here next.
We're going to see.
You were just getting ready to tell me about how you went to S&S. I interrupted.
Yeah. So S&S was cool. Well, the funny thing is like me and Chris were going to go because Chris does most of the, shipping and receiving manager kind of stuff. And then we wanted Bill to go because Bill wanted to like film the whole thing and kind of just like go for a road trip or whatever. I was like, yeah, it'd be cool. And then Brian wanted to go. So he ended up coming along and we just kind of made a trip out of it with a bunch of us. And it was fun. Like, it's always fun hanging out with those guys. Those are all the guys that like I was originally in the band with. And like, we've worked here since the beginning. So
the band
went on a trip basically. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we get to S&S and I get out to shake Mike's hand or whatever. And he's just like, yeah, I'm sorry. But like they've just like, HQ has decided that they didn't want you to film it.
Why?
Because there's like we got it. Like when we got in there, they have this like conveyor system that they like didn't want to show the public or whatever. Cause it's like this, I don't know, some fucking secret thing or whatever. And then they didn't want to like take photos of like employees while they were working. Cause I don't know if that's some kind of like consent thing or whatever. So they were like, you can take some photos and video, just like make sure there's no employees around and just don't film like this system over here or whatever. So we took a couple photos, a couple shots, but nothing like, you want to do like the whole thing and show it off and whatever. But it was cool because they were super inviting and super welcoming and like let us ask any question we had, like when you get a packing slip in the box and there's like little markings on it or like, why, when something's missing, what actually happens in the warehouse. And it's crazy to see like how they do everything and like how fucking like dialed they are and like the managers and how it like tiers down and like certain people in the warehouse have like different color vests on and it shows like what, managers they are and like what they're doing and they're fucking hauling ass around that place on these like little like electric carts, like picking and stuff.
Oh yeah.
So it's crazy to see and like just the massiveness of it. So it was fun. It was a good time to go see all that stuff. And then when we left there, in-house prints with Tyler and Alexa was on the way back. So we stopped there and Alexa got us Chick-fil-A. So we ate Chick-fil-A and then we hung out in the shop for a while and talked shit.
She knows the way to your heart.
Directly to my heart, yeah. So a plain Chick-fil-A sandwich and unsweetened tea. It went right here to my heart. Probably took some days off my life, but this is the way. And
yeah, but it's not the amount of days in your life. It's the life in those days.
You're right. It's quality, not quantity.
Yeah. And so she put life in one of your days.
Right.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks to Tyler and
Alexa. Yeah. So loved hanging out with those guys. And then we left and then we had more Chick-fil-A on the way home.
Why?
Because we can. I put the clip together and posted it today and it was just pretty much us in the car eating. And then, so it was a fun trip. and then back to work the next day and, put together some orders and ready to go back to work.
That sounds exciting. Wish I was in the car with you guys. Like if I was in the band, that'd be really cool.
You could be like a tambourine player or something. I could see it.
Harmonica, maybe.
Yeah. Maybe the recorder.
Or flute.
Poor man's recorder.
Okay. All right.
Got a couple dad jokes for me?
I was going to hit you with one that was going to be a surprise, like, because it's kind of a real question. And you're going to be like, oh, he's asking me like a real question. And then it turns out to be a dad joke. So here, pretend you didn't just say that. And we're just talking. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Cool. Hey, have you read the book, How to Fall Downstairs?
No, Andy, I have not.
Oh, it's a step-by-step guide.
Wonderful. I've decided that I'm not going to do dad jokes anymore.
Oh, well, that's too bad.
And I'm just going to do pickup lines.
All right. You got one?
Yeah. Hey, Andy, what's your shirt made out of?
Probably a cotton poly blend.
Nah, looks more like boyfriend material.
Okay.
Hey, Andy.
Oh,
it's a good thing.
You probably just do one.
Oh, but did I pick you up? Would you have gone home with me?
No. Let's move on.
Okay. You ready? Frank.
It all starts with a screen, and whether it's new stretches or re-stretches, Frank and his team do it the best.
Okay,
to find out more, go to graphicscreenfashion.com, FFFFF,
rank.com,
or
greatfuckingscreens.com.
Yeah, so I spoke with, I don't know if I mentioned this last time, but I think it's so important. I have to say it again. I spoke with Frank a couple times last week, and he's building us some screen racks. Did I tell you that?
Yeah, yes. And then you sent me pictures of a demolished bathroom.
Yeah, we demoed a bathroom to make room, to make space. So when screens are coming off of our finish station, so like exactly, so I don't know what you have right now, but let's say screens come out of your auto reclaim. Where do they go?
In a rack.
In a rack, like a horizontal rack or a vertical?
Yeah, because mine are mostly dry because of the blue water dries them.
So you can go in horizontal, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't have I don't have the droplet issue.
Yeah, for us, we have they're wet, and so he's building us these racks that they go vertical, and they're going to be 1, 2, 3 high, 25 each, like 75, and then he's building another one for 75 because we generally do about 150. And he's building another one for around the corner for the rinse, and so we can steal that one too. So for screen storage, because it's been so willy-nilly where our screens are, and we're going to get them all in one spot. It's going to be a beautiful thing. But Frank does that too, so he can custom build you screen racks. Don't forget that.
Yes.
Know it. Okay. You know what? Cleaning screens is no fun, but Easy Way makes it funner. Their line of eco-friendly chemicals will help you get your screens and your shop clean. Check them out at easyway.com. Easy Way.
It's the easiest way.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't done this in so long.
It feels weird. Are you all right? Do you need to stretch? You need to liven up a little bit. I feel like, is that coffee bringing you down? Are you sad?
I have been a little bit off.
I have too, so honestly. Let's be honest with each other.
I like that you're picking up on that.
I've been out of it for a little while.
Yeah, me too. So, not that I'm, anything's like major wrong, but I'm just a little out of sync, and I'm ready for something else.
Summer.
Isn't that weird how weather can make you happier?
Yeah, seasonal depression.
Yeah, so
it's real. I feel like we both need warm sunshine and orders to be filling our queue. I think that's what we need. That's what our lifeblood.
Yeah, I've always said, we've said this, I don't know how many times, it's way better to have too much work than too little work. Why? Because If I've got too much work, well, I can fix that. I can solve that problem, right? That's a good problem because I can say, well, we'll stay later, we'll come in earlier, we'll work Saturdays, whatever it is. Like we can solve the too much work problem. Too little work problem,
I would almost rather deal with employees complaining about being too busy and have too much to do than have an employee walk in my office and be like, is there anything else I can do?
Yeah. I mean, it's great that they're coming in and asking and not just like running out the clock out there, but still.
Right. But how much wasting time did they have to get to before they were like, I should probably go in and fucking ask?
Like this is starting to get a little absurd.
Right. Exactly.
I don't know. Yeah. I mean, it's just a terrible problem being too slow. And I just hope the snow holds off here in St. Louis because we can't handle it. We can't handle the snow. Anything over, I would say 1/16 of an inch. The city's just fucking down. We're too soft. Next, we've got Action Engineering, and they make all kinds of accessories printers need. Go to actionengineering.com to have a look and then use Shirt Show at checkout to get a one-time discount of 15% off.
Mm-hmm.
Monarch Color makes ink that does what it's supposed to.
Mm-hmm. It's very opaque, very creamy. Does exactly what you want it to do. Especially for a shop like mine, who does a lot of designs that are like super bright comic booky colors, like neons and everything. They all look beautiful.
So learn more at monarchcolor.com. Ink better, print better, be better.
Live Moss.
Monarch.
Go ahead and tell us who our guest is today, and I got something to say about it.
Our guest today, we have got Lon Winters of Graphic Elephants. He's located somewhere in North America because that's when I clicked on his thing, it just said North America. I'm like, no, okay, cool, where? And I clicked on the map of North, and then
he's a ghost.
North America. I think it's possibly Colorado, which is in North America, but
you don't say.
Yeah, he's somewhere.
It was funny. I was looking up things about Lon earlier, and I, for some reason, ended up on his LinkedIn page. And then I went to About to read what it said. And this is what it said. It's pretty ridiculous. Well, not in a bad way, like ridiculous in a good way. It says, at the age of 21, Lon Winters was head of production for Ocean Pacific. He learned the screen print industry from the bottom up, starting his 25 plus year career by reclaiming screens. Along the way, he has won over 50 international industry awards, including many SGIA Golden Image Awards, Printware Awards, Impressions Awards, and FESPA honors. He has served almost 15 years as an honorary Golden Image judge, published numerous articles in monthly columns, and led several seminars and workshops for an array of industry professionals. An industry leader, he has consulted on projects large and small throughout the world, a developer of processes, and is a master creative problem solver. Isn't that hell of a fucking bio?
So you're saying he knows a little bit, like he knows a little bit.
Smidge.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, well, hopefully he can learn us some stuff, right? I mean... Maybe.
Are we recording? Can you hear me? I miss doing this a little bit. I miss the softness.
I don't.
I know. That's why I stopped doing it for a while.
You ready to do this?
I do need a stretch. Have you ever been to a masseuse?
Yeah.
I have never. I need to. I feel like I've had a fear of it for so long. But I feel like I don't care anymore. I just want someone to like deep rub me once a week.
You can, we could go to a couples, massage.
Can we be face to face?
I think they probably let that happen.
Cool. What's up, sir?
Hey boys, how are you?
Pretty good.
It's Sunday.
I know. I feel like I watched a ton of YouTube today. That's about all I did.
That's cool. You learn anything?
Well, the funny thing is, you say learn anything, but like I've been trying over the past couple of weeks to make a print education playlist of like videos I find on YouTube that have something good that my staff could learn from, and maybe implement that into Monday meetings where I can say, hey, let's watch this for a half hour. And then, something new, something that's not from my mouth is nice. You know what I mean? Like there's only so much where they're like, you're full of shit.
You can do that on YouTube. So like you can create a playlist.
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Cool.
Yeah. So I'm making one that's like sales oriented and one that's like print shop oriented. So where I can have two different teams watch two different videos. But I don't know. I'm starting it. It's nothing like crazy yet, but I feel like it'd be nice to have even like shop tours, you know what I mean? Like the Printavo ones or the M&R ones or whatever. Just so they can get like either inspired or be like, why are they doing that? Or should I be doing that? Or, you know, I feel like a lot of it, like I said, is just like me coming up to them and being like, hey, you should do this. And they're like, you're so full of shit.
Yeah. That's cool though. That's a great idea.
Yeah. So that was my day today.
So Lon,
Yes, sir.
long time ago, I was at a trade show and I walked by a booth and it was yours. And you had some samples out of T-shirts that you'd printed. And most of them had like patterns in them. Like you had set, I think, something on the pallet and then printed these shirts to create these patterns. And I was like, wow, that's really, I had never even thought about that. And so that was my first like introduction to some of the stuff you do. I know you do way, way more than that. But yeah, can you give us some history of, which I just found out because Dylan read your LinkedIn, and I just found out that you probably were responsible for making some shirts that I wore way, way, way back when I was younger, some OP. Dylan, do you ever have any Ocean Pacific shirts? Or
I've seen it, but I've never worn
it. Yeah, I still got some of those blue corduroy shorts from the 80s. You know, the nice short ones that they
He's
still
rocking
fit.
them right now.
Actually, I'm not wearing any pants.
Well, then perfect.
On
You'll
Zoom.
fit right in.
Yeah, that's kind of where when I graduated college, I had a math and an art major and no idea what the hell I wanted to do. I wish I could say screen printing is a perfect fit, and I educated myself to be a screen printer. In hindsight, it is a perfect fit of the math and art, but it wasn't what I necessarily meant to do. I needed a job, so I got one cleaning screens at a small print shop in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's where I grew up. It's right outside of Lincoln. And within a few months, the production manager there kind of challenged me. I was reclaiming screens, and within a few months, I was kind of running their screen department. They had a teeny little 4-color precision oval, automatic, and a bunch of manuals, and they had thousands of wooden screens cataloged, and they'd do reorders and pull down the screens and re-register them on mostly manuals, and then they had that little 4-color. And the production manager, Dave Corse, at the time, good friend of mine, later in life, challenged me. He said, if you want to make a career out of this, I can get you an interview at OP in Denver. And he had been a production manager there previous. So I basically packed everything I had into a tiny little pickup and drove to Denver, moved in with my soon-to-be sister-in-law, in her basement, and went to the interview, and they hired me as ink boy, ink technician, I suppose, officially. And within a few months there,
were they trying to get rid of you then? Because they were like, "Hey, can you move to Denver and get the hell out of here?"
It might have been. Maybe that was the idea.
Because you're like, "Hey, I moved up from cleaning screens to running the department." He was like, "Hey, if you want to do this for real, you need to go somewhere else."
They were small, and I think in his, he had ultimately built his own business and moved to Yuma, Arizona. I don't remember how the timing was, but he had. It was a reasonably small place in Lincoln, and he just thought if I wanted to really make it, you need to get some real experience. And I, full of piss and vinegar at that age, and 10 feet tall and bulletproof, and you figure you can do anything. And it was a bunch of Mexican women running all these automatics. They had, I think it was 6 automatics, and a bunch of manuals. And within, I think it was about a year, they made me the production manager, which was at 21, 22 years old was kind of a daunting task, but you don't know any better at that time. So
did you work your way up there to be production manager, or you came in as one role and they were like, hey, would you want to do this?
It kind of worked up. I was managing before I knew how to print.
That's crazy.
I was color matching for a few months, and then they kind of put me in a press coordinator role. And then I think from the press coordinator, assistant manager or second shift manager, and then the production manager. Hey, that's my boy. That's Jax.
Perfect time to play tug of war.
Yes, he is 7-month-old behemoth.
So at OP, at that shop anyway, did they only print their own stuff, or were they a custom printer too, or a contract printer too?
No, it was the way it worked back then is they were kind of a license holder, and they had what they called at the time images license, which was young women, and then a children's wear license, which was little kids stuff. And there was, I think, 4 or 5 around the country that were license holders. And I don't know about, it was us, Sun Sportswear, and a couple others I can't remember the names of. They were in Washington, and they had some stuff in California. And I think the way it worked is you were a license holder, you couldn't print for anybody else. And for sure we didn't. That was all we printed. And at the time, late 80s, early 90s, that was the 800-pound gorilla. That was the Nike of the day. Mm-hmm. All the other surf lines that came after them, Billabong, Quicksilver, those type of lines came after OP, kind of paved the way on that. It's sort of the surf was sort of the original urban street. And it kind of turned into skate and board, and that's sort of they were sort of the originators of that sort of, I guess, surf, skate, urban type of thing.
Are they still around?
From what I understand, they basically sold out everything. The license holders all sold out, and then it was just a license that, like from what I understand, like a Target or somebody like that owns the licensing, and it's a very small surf brand now. And if you're an OG, you remember it, but for the most part, you see it here and there, kind of mixed in with Billabong and some of the other surf lines. But it's pretty. You see flip flops and shoe wear more than you see printed apparel. It's still around here and there. It kind of went away for a few years, and then you see it here and there at really kind of big box,
like a touristy shop near the beach somewhere.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see them in there.
Crazy how those sort of brands are so hot for a while and then they fade out. It's like because I remember, of course, No Fear came along and everybody had to have that and print that.
Big Johnson.
Yeah. Bum equipment.
Sure.
Stuff like that. Everybody had those, sweatshirts. It's just crazy how something can hit and everybody, the guy
Janko jeans.
Yeah. You remember, how there's North Face. Did you ever see South Butt?
Yeah, I've seen that.
That actually started here. They got obviously sued and had to stop, but yeah.
Probably got a little attention too, though, for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you move out to Denver and you become production manager, you said, right?
Yeah, that was I want to say like 90.
Did you like that role?
I liked earning some money so I could buy shit. I just got out of college and I took the job at OP for $4.05 an hour. And the production manager position didn't pay that well either. But before they put me on salary, I got damn close to earning $40,000 a year by working like 18 hours a day. Because there's always a shift manager that's not showing up, or, when you don't know any better, particularly that, that production manager role or owner role is you do everything. I mean, nobody knows how to run the mop in the middle of the night. Nobody knows how to unplug a clogged toilet in the middle of the night. You're getting those calls. And so I was able to earn a pretty good living at that time, just by putting in the hours.
Now, you said, though, that you just got a job by chance to clean screens. At that point that you were kind of moved up and moved to Denver, were you like, I think I'm going to do as much in this space as I can? Or were you still just like, I'm making decent money, I guess I'll figure it out later what I really want to do?
I wish I could tell you it was intentional.
I don't feel like for any of us, it was necessarily intentional. Like, I never thought I was going to be a screen printer. It just happened and I kept going with it.
Yeah, I think, and I think it's easy to look back now. I always tell everybody it's too late to be a doctor, so I better be good at this screen printing thing. But it also is kind of most people that are in it really love the business, and they love the community, and they love the craft mixed with the stuff you can control. And that, again, going back to that magic balance of the math and art, it's constant creative problem solving. And there's, you guys know too, when you're in business ownership, if you could take out the payroll and the workman's comp and, the craft part of it is a ball. I love making t-shirts. If that were all it was, then I've had an awesome life. I love making t-shirts. And I think it gets in your blood, and a lot of folks have left and come back, and you'll see that where people say they're done with this business and they get out and take a position somewhere else. And a lot of them end up back working for somebody else or starting a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard
there's definitely something addictive about it. I think you nailed it when you said it's that perfect blend of creativity, and whether it's mathematics or engineering or whatever it takes, that problem solving part of it, it's because maybe it's just never boring, because it's never just all math and engineering, and it's never just all art and creativity. I come in and whenever I walk in the shop, I have a list of things I know I need to work on, but then there's probably just as many things that are surprises that all of a sudden I'm working on, and so it's just never boring. I was talking to one of our friends, Scott, and he has a shop too, King Screen, and he's scaling back. Like it's pretty interesting. I mean, I've actually been considering this notion for a while. Is it better? What causes the most stress? Like, what are the things I don't like about this shop here every single day? And mainly, it's just a certain, I guess, customer, and also just the stress of being crazy busy, which Dylan and I talked about a little bit earlier. But if, I think everybody here would be just a little bit happier if we did maybe just a little bit less, and that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I know most businesses, like if you're a public company and you said that, your shareholders would immediately fire you. You'd be like, well, sorry, you can't, run this company anymore. But it's not just a bad thing, because if you find that balance of art, and if you just love what you do, you love the process, you love this, just like you said, you love t-shirts. And if you can eliminate some of the shitty parts about the business, and I know you can't eliminate all, this isn't going to all be like potato salad and boats and
potato salad and boats.
Yeah, somebody said that to me the other day, and I'm like, I'm going to use that.
All right.
Good. It's all not. It all can't be good, because there's certain amount of reward when you do something and you solve a problem and you fix it, and it's you make it better. But if I can just minimize maybe the shitty days somehow, I
feel like a lot of people are getting to the point where it's like you said, like scaling back. It's kind of scaling back, but it's more saying no a lot more to the bullshit stuff and saying yes to the stuff that actually makes you money. And if you've been around long and have a reputation enough, I feel like you're going to still get a lot of those good jobs that you can say yes to and be more profitable on, and have a smaller crew that can handle those, instead of having way more crew to do a lot of the like bullshit orders that probably aren't making you that much money anyway. And then you still have all the headaches of those orders and the headaches of those more employees and everything else. So,
and Mark Coudray shared with me years ago the 80-20 rule, which, you're always doing 80% of the work for 20% of the all that. And the bottom 20%, you should figure out how to fire, not do the work for that 20%. And it was always kind of a, yeah. I've read it in operations books. I've read it in business management books. Yeah. Never really practiced it until COVID kind of jammed it down our throats. We were so short on resources after we laid everybody off, and then we brought back who we wanted to bring back. And then when people started buying again, we just didn't have the resources to do the bottom 20. So it's sort of we lopped them off just by, I can't do it. I can't get to it. I can't.
Well, and that was like one of the greatest things. Like COVID sucked, but one of the greatest things, a good thing, I guess, that came out of it was that you can blame COVID. You don't have to say, oh, sorry, we're, Lon at Graphic Elephants, we don't want to do work for you anymore. You can just say, it's COVID.
Exactly. Because everybody's using that. You can't get in because of COVID. You can't get your stove installed because of COVID. You can't get anybody to work on your low voltage because of COVID. It's all, everybody's using it. And honestly, this was kind of interesting. We've all had to raise our prices some because our materials are more, our cost of goods is higher, and our labor is higher. You can't get anybody to sniff a job for under $15 an hour entry level. That's become the minimum wage. It's not. I think it's about 12 here in Colorado, but nobody will work for any less than 15 part-time, they just won't. Anyway,
I feel like that's the same in most places, not just Colorado. I feel like we're dealing with it here. Andy's dealing with it in St. Louis.
Maybe not in rural Nebraska somewhere, but even then, I think you're probably right. But we were in the middle of a 5,000 piece, 5 location poly bike run job. And we don't do a lot of contract work, but this is one contract customer that we've had for 30 years. And the owner of it's Primal Wear, which is a pretty well-known biking brand. They do tons of real colorful and aggressive looking full sublimation stuff overseas. And they do tons of it. If you're a biker, everybody knows who Primal is. But we do all their t-shirt work and have since they started 30 some years ago. We're just friendly, and we typically don't do a lot of contract work, but we've always done their work, and it adds up. It's a nice account at the end of the year, especially with 5,000 pieces, 5 locations. But I hate those runs because and they're usually some disgusting lime green colored freaking poly shirt. They're laying everywhere because with 5 locations, you got to get them all out to do the first location, and you can't start boxing until you finish the last location. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to get a meeting with them to go over price increases. And they didn't have time for it. We didn't have time for it. No return emails, no return phone calls. And finally I texted them and said, we're raising your prices 30% and it starts effective immediately. A matter of fact text like we get from Avient or EasyWay or whoever that's just telling you, if you can get what you're looking for, your prices are going to be higher. But I sent a matter of fact text and I got a thumbs up emoji. People are paying for it. COVID. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You just can demand more, which is helpful. It helped us get through that order because it was driving us nuts. But
I had this exact call this week. There's a guy I've worked with for forever, and we raised our prices at the end of last year and just kind of did an overhaul on the whole pricing structure and everything we were doing. And he kind of has always had his own pricing chart because he does so much work with us and we're kind of like been really good together. And I told him earlier in the year, mid-year, I was like, we're going to be redoing all this stuff. I'm going to make you your own pricing chart so that all you can do, you can just look at this and quote your jobs and whatever you want to do. And I sent it to him, and like 2-3 weeks went by, and he called me on Friday and was just like, hey, so maybe we can sit down next week because I'm, having issues with customers like not liking these prices. And I'm like, dude, that's just what it is now. Like this is our pricing here, like is what we need to do everything that we're doing and be profitable and grow and everything else. And they're still not as high as some of the other places out there. I was like, if most people are going online, like the general Joe is going online and trying to quote something real quick, they might go to like Custom Ink or whatever and like quote it. I was like, we're not even like that high. And I was like, you shouldn't have any issues. But the problem was he was having all these issues from the low tier customers, the ones that always want to order like 25 pieces. And it's like,
Sure.
4-color front, 2-color back or whatever. And I'm just like, dude, those are the ones that we're trying to like not do it all anymore. Like I'm trying to price those people out. I was like, our pricing is good from like 100 up. I was like, cause that's the shit we want to do all day long. And I don't know. It was just that whole discussion of just like it. I mean, blanks went up dollars. They weren't. It's not like they went up 3 cents. It was like they went from like being $2 to $4, and it's like
blanks and ink and emulsion and
everything.
Labor.
But I'm just saying, it's like
everything.
Like you said, you can blame everything on COVID, but it's a good restart for everybody with everything. Like people being home and going back to work, and like there were years and years where people were just like office desk jobs all day long and just like staring at a computer. COVID made them realize like their worth to the company and that they're more productive at working from home than they are sitting in an office all day. And then these office people are like, well, why do we have these huge office buildings when I can just have half of the staff work from home and then I can downsize all that stuff? And I don't know, there's all these huge changes that happened. And I feel like, yeah, like you said, COVID sucks, like the actual like COVID, but like the thing that it did to all of us, I feel like made us like restructure everything and like rethink how we should be in business and what we're doing. Sure.
Everybody's doing more with less. And it's probably the way it should be. I'm pretty transparent and I probably overshare. But we were in 2020, we were down 40% in our top line sales, and we had a kick-ass first quarter. So without the first quarter, I'm not sure how horrible we might've looked. But we really didn't really have a horrible bottom line, which tells me we're doing 40% more work at absolutely break even. And emotionally or big picture wise, it really kind of like made me reevaluate what we do, how we do it. When to say no. And I, like you guys, I like to give to the community because it's provided for me for almost 35 years. And I don't want to be that guy that doesn't do anything for money, but I think I was getting carried away and I was letting our business get a little carried away in stuff we would do for the association, stuff we would do for demos and those kinds of things. We've got to be at least cognitive or realize, not necessarily assign a number to it, but you can't give away 40% of your revenue.
It's tough to say no to those type of customers, or also even the ones where maybe even you're breaking even on because you're conditioned. So like when we started, we're, fighting for our life and we're desperate, I guess, if you want to call it that, and trying to, we'll print anything, of course, we have bills to pay. And so, but along the way it starts to shift a little bit. And, but you always remember that. You always remember where you came from. I do anyway. And so saying no, like raising our minimums like we did, and then saying no to certain customers now and essentially fire them or breaking up with certain customers, let's say, it's really, really tough. And I felt, actually, I think we felt a little bit of that these past 2 weeks, because I sure could have used, I would have printed some 10 shirt orders this last week. That's how slow we were. Sure, bring them. And I know that we probably wouldn't have, made very much on them, but at least it would have kept people busy, and we'd have, maybe paid a bill or two. And I think that transition. So I think that once you've decided to say, okay, we're going to eliminate the bottom 20% or wherever that number is, and kind of go after, kind of create some space for that work that you really do want. Maybe isn't instant, maybe it takes a year or something for that to fill in. That void is there now because we broke up with whatever, however many customers, and then how are we going to fill it? And so maybe that takes more than a month or two, or maybe it takes even a year or two, but I'm okay with that.
Well, that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened to us like 5 or 6 years ago when we fired all our contractors. Like we were doing contract work and then we were sick of getting taken advantage of and printing shit for shit costs. And we were using all like top tier materials and top tier equipment that we were doing all this stuff for. And they were just walking in with a demanded price list and all this other stuff. Like you said in the beginning, you're hungry and you're just like, I'll take anything I can get. And then you start to realize like, this isn't fucking worth my time. And then like all of a sudden it was like a Wednesday. I was like, fuck this. And I called all of them. And we were just like, hey, like we're done. Like it wasn't a negative, but it was just like, hey, we're done. We're doing contract work, whatever. It was scary, but we were also seeing that we were letting down a lot of our good customers, like our direct customers. And then I was like, how much more time we would have to focus on the 80 or on the, whatever, to do more quality work with our name on it. And then as soon as we fired those, like you said, maybe like a month later, like we were more than full schedule all the time with our own shit because we were doing good work and building our name more. And so on. It was like, we just got rid of all that bullshit. And then we started doing more shit for ourselves. And then, it's nice to say you don't do any contract work because you have more than enough of your own shit to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to really be focused on it because you got to get it turned. Whereas, when you're doing a full package and you're doing a $10 t-shirt, you can afford to maybe not be as, turning jobs as quickly. But as a contractor, and we were a mix for years and years and years, years ago. And the brokers that you're doing contract work for, they almost get mad at you for doing direct work, because that's potentially their customer. So it's like this big emotional, it's never cheap enough. You're never moving fast enough. And they're mad at you for selling a $10 t-shirt to somebody else on one machine while your other machine's running for 50 cents a print. I
think that you have to qualify if you're going to decide to do contract work, you have to qualify that contractor, because I think if you're doing work for brokers, that's sort of one contract style or, but we do a lot of printing. Our top 3 customers we print for, they aren't our shirts. And so I guess it's contract work, but they're not a broker. It's I think all 3, all 3 are brands, so they buy all their shirts and they're drop shipped here and we print for them. But it's more of like a partnership or a relationship. It's definitely not a typical, like you just said, the margins are tight. You've got to hit a quota. Otherwise you may lose money. And so it's not like that. They pay a premium as more than maybe typical contract work, because they're getting a dedicated, account manager. They're getting priority check-in. They're getting, in fact, priority printing, quicker turnarounds and stuff like that. And so, which is an advantage to them. And it also really works well for us because I think that if you have and you qualify the right contract work, then it's a win-win. It's just, you just have to, I guess it's sort of like the 80-20. There's contractors out there that are, you can work with and have a good relationship with, and then there's some you can't, you just have to figure out which ones those are.
Well, it's like, I agree with Lon. And like, if you're a contract shop and that's all you do is contract and you're like dialed on everything and speed is key and you're super efficient, then those shops, there's nothing wrong with doing contract work. You're either not set up for it or you're not, you know what I mean? Like if you're set up for it, there's huge advantages to that too. They have no necessarily like sales force. They don't have to deal with customer bullshit. They're just printing jobs. They're just production. They're just manufacturing all day long. And like, if they're good at doing that and knocking shit out the door, then awesome. Like I've talked to contractors before where they're just like, you're in a pinch and you want to send them something. They're just like, no, like this is how we do it. It doesn't deviate from this path. Like, this is what we're doing and we're going to get it done. I feel like the mix of both is difficult.
and you're not carrying the cost of goods, which is, if you can, like your relationship, if you can get a premium for contract decorating services in a partnership type of arrangement where everybody wins. I think maybe the typical contract model is this broker thing, ASI, promotional product. But there is, and I suppose by definition, you're doing contract work. But if you can get get what it's worth, if they get value and you get paid. We have a few customers like that too. They prefer to buy their own goods, and that's, as long as they're getting value and you're in front of your costs and you've got a margin that suits you. Certainly that's gravy. Then you don't have to carry the goods and you get a premium contract price point that they still see value in. It's like anything. If you go to the Amazon and buy a stereo, and if you think it's a great deal because it's on sale, you got value and they got paid. So it's sort of a
perception of worth. Mm-hmm. So let's go back to your career a little bit. You were the production manager, and then what happened after that?
I got fired.
For
now that I think about it, I got fired. There was kind of a weird, I'm kind of rethinking this the way it happened. There was a lot of money in this brand, and they had two buildings, one where we were running the screen print, and then they had another building that had blanks, and they were buying and building blanks. And that's when everything was hangered. And they had this big old tracking system where everything got hung at the end of the dryer and they got literally pushed onto trucks. And then those were pushed into retailers, just a massive.
Wow. So why would
they do it that way?
Well, they don't anymore because it wasn't real efficient, apparently.
Yeah, fuck yeah, that doesn't sound it at all.
Yeah, it was all on hangers and all rails. But department stores had everything on hangers back in those days. There weren't stacks of T-shirts. Everything was on hangers.
Yeah, but it still makes sense to ship them a box, and then the department store employees would hang them.
This was all OP's full package. This is what they provided retailers.
You think about it, though, it's not going to get wrinkled. There won't be those folds.
That is true.
It's just maybe they're hung up perfectly.
From what I understand, then too, they provided the fixturing and the whole bit inside of these big box stores as well. So things were moved off the trucks onto their rail system, and it was a pretty significant undertaking. By all that, I mean, they were pretty fat in vice presidents and really high paid individuals. So apparently something had been going on with, I don't know if there was embezzlement or selling merch out the back door, or I don't know exactly, but I came in the office one day. Oh, this was 1990. Colorado CU had just won the national championship, or they were going to the national championship. I don't know. Yeah, they were going to the Orange Bowl for the national championship. And I printed bootleg shirts that said CU in Miami, because everybody does. And I had the screens behind my desk. And I came in on Monday morning and the black line screen was gone. And the next thing I knew, I was in an office with a hired private investigator with lie detector shit on my arms. And I was freaking shaking I think I probably cried. I'm pretty sure I cried. And it was like big time stuff about what's going on out the back doors kind of stuff. And I honestly had no friggin' idea of what was happening, but they had just installed a plant manager who was maybe on the job for 2 weeks or a month or something. And he kind of said, don't worry about anything. Nobody knows what's going on, blah, 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 blah. Well, because he didn't know what was going on, they went ahead and let him go. But I was safe at the moment. And then they brought the owner's son in to be the plant manager. So I spent a year teaching him everything he knew, and then he let me go. That's how I exited that place. But there was a bunch of vice presidents that got let go, and I don't know that any charges were filed, but I think there was some major pilferage going on from the other building. I don't think we had, but I guess AJ, the plant manager, was he should have known or something. So that was the reasoning for letting him go. But I got to train the new guy. So that was.
And then let go after you shared all your knowledge.
And I should have saw it coming. Here's a magic trick back in the day, though. I took my Rolodex with me, and they couldn't figure out anything. I had a friend of mine that was the assistant manager who came to work for me later. He'd call me all the time saying, who do we buy paper towels from? Who do we buy toilet paper from? And a year or two later, he was let go, and he knew he was done because he went to the office. His Rolodex was gone. So they learned.
Here's a question for you. Do you still have that Rolodex or even a Rolodex?
No.
Isn't that weird how that's super gone? Like,
it's like nobody has beepers.
No beepers.
Yeah, but business cards were such a thing, and you'd have this Rolodex, and it was actually really helpful because
a giant one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. And you can pull it out, and then you put notes on it and everything like that. And so, yeah, I mean, phones, I guess, are a little bit easier, but I don't know. I kind of prefer the Rolodex now that I think about it. Do they still sell them? I think I want one.
I used to have a giant Rolodex, and then I had this like wall of several rows of catalogs. Catalogs, the dealers weren't like they are today, where S&S or Sanmar, they pretty much have everything. Most people's catalog was thin, and they were a Hanes only dealer or a Fruit of the Loom only dealer. So it wasn't like you could, if somebody wanted, and then there way less ladies specific apparel. So if somebody wanted a ladies V-neck or something, you had to dig pretty deep into the catalog files to find something.
And there was I had those too. And there was tie-dye manufacturers. And so all these niches, right? And then most of those companies, which I don't know, I don't think they do it anymore, but they would print your logo on the front, like the front cover, and you could order whatever. You just had to pay for shipping. So with S&S, we used to order 300 or something at the beginning.
They still do that now.
With your logo on it? Yeah, but I mean, I don't even know. It's like customers don't even ask for catalogs anymore.
We used to have Bodick and Rhodes and Broder, and I think I don't think I ever got one from S&S. They would always just send, I wouldn't ask, they would just send them to me, and I would have 5 or 6 big boxes of catalogs. And I don't think we ever handed one out.
They were heavy as shit too.
And it's dude, stop fucking sending these to me. It's like getting a what is it? A Uline catalog. It's stop fucking sending them to me. Yeah. I'm never looking through a Uline catalog to find an item. I'm going to the website. Save paper, dude.
Isn't that? And it can't be free. They have to spend.
They have to spend so much money on sending those out.
Just in postage.
They're £4. It's there's no way that shit's cheap.
And if anybody else ever bought anything, you get 2 or 3 of them
in the box
at the same time. It's good Lord.
There has to be somebody behind marketing that has data that says, every time we send
or their brother works at a paper company and they're just laundering money.
Graphics Pro says that when they do their polling or their surveys, that 7 out of 10 or something like that, people prefer the book over the online magazine.
I do for impressions. When I get the impressions catalog, or not catalog, the magazine, I actually go through the whole thing.
It is, and there's something to doing that on the toilet or something.
I think it's more because it's like a magazine, and you're reading and you're looking. It's not a catalog. You know what I mean? I don't think I would ever look through a paper catalog anymore because there's the website and a search tool where I could just be like, oh, this is what I want.
Right.
But in an impressions or whatever, you look through and you're like, oh, who wrote this article or what featured shop is in this one? And you like read through it or whatever. So
yeah, before YouTube,
that's kind of cool.
Shop tours, that's how people saw inside other shops. Every month, Printware or Impressions or whoever, like you mentioned, there'd be a featured
magazine.
shop. Yeah. And you'd go through and there'd be like a full page spread of this shop. And you're like, holy cow, like here's what they do. And they have 4 automatics. And that was your dream, And so you would, that's how you were introduced to other shops back then.
Well, the funny thing is too, is like, I have like a thing over here of ones where we've been in like different magazines, and it's so cool to like get yourself in the magazine, and then you can cut out the pages of the magazine and like frame it and put it on the wall. And I remember there was like 1 or 2 that we were in where there was no printed version. It was just an online version. And it was like, I had to like go to that online page and like crop it and make a PDF and like print it out so I could hang it up on the wall. It's just like, oh, I just want an actual print version of this.
No doubt.
So you got fired. What happened after that?
I took a gig at a company in Denver called Golden Squeegee. They had just created a merger between a company called Rocky Mountain High and Golden Squeegee, and they were a 4 automatic shop. And one of the owners hired me as his kind of personal assistant. And then I think I was there for 4 or 5 years through that merger. Eventually one of them was bought out, or asked to leave. It was funny because I was the one owner's personal kind of assistant, and I did a lot of the buying and stuff, was mostly a lot of my role at that point. And it looked like he was going to force the other partner out. But I've always been really careful. I don't even know if it's on purpose. I'm careful not to burn bridges because you never know how things are going to work out. So I stayed really friendly, or was not like blindly loyal to one partner over the other. And like at the 11th hour, that whole thing flipped over. So the guy that was getting forced out had gathered up a bunch of documentation and basically forced the other one out. So it completely flipped upside down. And then after that point, they made me the general manager, because he was the production side, and the owner that stayed was the sales side. So I basically took over the production for him. Those guys are both gone now, and so is Golden Squeegee. It's kind of a drag. But I did cut my chops in a big operation and begun to create relationships with the manufacturers and the dealers. And sort of where I became, I guess, somewhat significant in the industry, because people were trying to sell me shit and they were my decisions, and I would just get sign off from the owner. So that was when I first started leveraging trade shows and things, and meeting manufacturers, owners and higher ups and that kind of thing. So, and then started my own thing. Officially we started in 93. I was still employed before, or during that time, but we've been in, Graphic Elephants has been around since 93.
How did you start it while you were working at the other place? So,
boy, I'm too transparent again. I stole a press from Golden Squeegee and put it in my basement.
They're not around anymore. What are they?
They're not around anymore. And it was it wasn't being used. It was on a pallet, and I was borrowing it, let's just say.
Yeah.
And the manufacturer of that isn't around. It was a Miracle, is what it was called. It's a red press that looked kind of like a Hopkins, I guess. And I stuck that in my basement and started doing some work, of all things. Like you said, you take on contract work because somebody wants something done, and they're going to bring you the shirts, and it helped me get started. So I guess I shouldn't I shouldn't dog on contract work.
That's even tougher though. Contract work on a manual. I mean.
Oh yes, believe me.
But that's how most people start though, is they end up doing. That's why they take on contract stuff. Like if they're doing stuff for like, custom ink or whatever it is they're doing stuff for, is because they don't have enough of their own work to fill the schedule. So
that is true. I mean, you just took, like you said, you're hungry, you're desperate, you just need something. And, I want to be doing this full time. I got to get,
right.
And you're not paying yourself. So, those all nighters, you feel like, okay, even from a contract perspective, it's all gravy because there's no cost. But it got me kind of started, and I've always had the entrepreneurial bug or itch or whatever. I knew I'd be doing something for myself, but no idea what that might be. But it kind of just ended up being this. But it's I was telling a story on a shop talk. At Impressions, or Rick Roth does those shop talks in kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of remembering, it's like we built a company called Graphic Elements to $5 million inside of 5 years, from zero to $5 million inside of 5 years. It went from hiring our first employee to 100 people, 3 shifts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The most miserable probably time of my life. And that's, I was a minority partner in that business, which I learned the hard way just means you have ownership responsibility, but you're just a glorified employee.
You said this was on the side?
No, this was where I put 100% of my efforts, as Graphic Elephants was, let's call it dormant for the moment. This place was called Graphic Elements. And I was the president, but I was a more minority shareholder. So I leveraged a lot of my relationships to build it. And he had 55 resort retail stores. And somewhere along the line, divorce, wife gets 2/3 of the most profitable stores, blah, blah, blah. So his business was tied to us because he leveraged all of our business and borrowed a couple $1 million against it. And then when he went down, we were like the life raft with the Titanic. But what we did was took everything we thought that was good about Graphic Elements and open, kind of burst into Graphic Elephants. And that name came from teasing the receptionist when at Graphic Elements, not to say Graphic Elephants. And
so you just ran with it?
Yeah, we just ran with it.
That was kind of born out of the ashes, I guess, of Graphic Elements. And
Right,
did you bring, you weren't a partner then, that was your thing. Like you were 100% owner,
right,
I guess, of Graphic Elephants. And that's, now did you bring some of the clients that were with Graphic Elements, or did you again have to start over? And I mean, how did that work?
Obviously the biggest client was ourselves, the stores. But we took on a lot of contract work at the time. We had 6 automatics and 100 heads of embroidery. And we were good, but we wanted to be, big too. So it was like, you just kept taking on contract work. And we did, I helped Nike build a factory in Mexico City, or outside of Mexico City. And during that 2-year phase to build it was like a $10 million facility down there. We did a bunch of contract work for Nike. So we would get
time out. So how do you go? Does Nike just call you on the phone and say, "Hey, dude, like, we're building this facility in Mexico City. Can you help us out?" I mean, how did that come about? Because that'd be I would love to do something like that.
It's as you might guess, it's all relationships. We're doing work right now for the shoe area of Nike. Everything's about who you know, and we I had a relationship with a guy in Cheyenne, Wyoming, of all places, that he's like a freaking genius. I can't believe how freaking smart he is. And he's one of these guys that would tell you stories and, drinking stories, and you'd go, nah, that's bullshit. He's making that up. He's making that up. He's making that up. But every time I would think that I caught him in some, not really lie, but, embellishing.
Fantastic story.
I would see some picture of him doing exactly what he's either really good at covering his ass, or he's like he was a world kickboxing champion. He was a massive bodybuilder. He was blah, blah, blah. And you're going, that's all bullshit. That's all.
I have friends that are exactly like that. You're like, there's no fucking way. And they're like, oh yeah, remember? Oh, let me show you a picture. And it's just like them doing the thing. And you're like,
exactly.
You're really good at Photoshop. Or
no, we were out drinking at a trade show and just being stupid and goofy and having a good time. And we're walking down the hallway of the hotel, and he, from a standstill, he kicks a light out off the ceiling with some like freaking jiu-jitsu move or some shit. He's we were at another trade show, and we got in a taxi to take us to dinner or something. And the taxi driver couldn't figure out where we were going. And he finally let us out, but he wanted paid. And this guy's name's Doug Brendel. Good friend of mine. He's still in Cheyenne, but he tells the taxi driver, and he gets right up in his face, and he says, I'm going to put my foot right here against your head if you don't get out of our faces. And I just told the dude, I said, man, I've seen him do that. And he's only a foot away from it, and he can put his foot like right next to your ear. Good God. So anyway, he had contacts with Nike. He had done some work with Stretch Devices, Newman Roller Frames, done some work with Midwest Screen Supply, and had some connects with the Nike people. And then basically it all came from him in, hey, I got a shop that can help us in the short term, and I got a guy that can help us build the factory. And that was kind of my first consulting gig, outside of actually just doing the print work. So it sort of was a magic kind of, everything kind of lined up. It was just,
yeah, that shit rules.
Yeah. And it wasn't,
you could be like, if you could have a blank check and say, okay, we'd have to build this factory for X amount to produce X amount of shirts, annually or whatever. And you have this rectangle giant building, and you can just like build it how you want, because how we grew was one space at a time. And when you grow like us, when you add on and add on and add on and add on, it's never really perfect, because right. You have to deal with stuff that's already existing, like this power or a bathroom here, which we just had to make. So I had to make a really tough decision to demo. We have 4 bathrooms here, but now we have 3 because I needed that space.
And he doesn't like to run very far to take a shit. So he has 4 bathrooms in the shop.
Well, I mean, dude, like if you have a certain amount of people and you don't have enough bathrooms, it's a nightmare, it's just a nightmare. And so I had to make the decision to go down to 3 bathrooms so that we could have a screen drying area, and so we'll see how it goes. But I mean, it's just, we only have so much space. And so if you were able to build this factory though, with as many bathrooms as you want, but also like in the right spots even, you know what I mean? Like that would just be so cool.
It is. They're fun. That's probably the biggest budget build we've got to do. Usually it's an existing building. So I have one in Canada I'm doing right now that's kind of a blank slate, but usually you've got to be like you did when you laid you guys' places out. It's like you got to know where the water comes in, because you don't necessarily want to cut the floor all the way over here, even though the screen department would be way better way over there.
Right.
Sewage is over here, and it's going to cost X number of dollars to bring electrical. And so you're kind of a little handcuffed into how and where things kind of have to go. at least sections, but every now and again you get a really wide open, and they're fun to lay out. We did a really big one that was supposed to go into Portland. They were going to buy an existing, again, Nike. See, these things all kind of feather in together, and they hear a name and they pass it along to this other department. And we worked with him before over here. So it's kind of those kinds of things have helped us in one way or another. I'd never want to be a contractor again for Nike, but we do specialty development things for them right now.
I got a question for you. If you have that blank check and you have that unlimited warehouse, unbiased, like I don't care either way, what would be your dream equipment to put in there with the way the industry is right now?
You mean dream
with
brand?
Like not necessarily like manufacturing brand. Like, yeah, if you were like, okay, I want a digital squeegee over here. I want this from Rock over here. I like what Anatol's doing with this. I like what Sadi's doing with this. Like, what would be your like dream setup of like, say, these presses, this dark room, this whatever? Like, what would you put in that place? I
bleed blue. I've been an M&R customer for 35 years. We had Challenger number 42 or something. And it was a piece of shit, by the way. I had a customer that tried to do exactly that, and they failed miserably. And here's kind of why. And it's common sense. They had 3 different equipment manufacturers because of exactly like you said. Oh, I like the M&R for this, and I like the Rock for that, and I like the MHM for these. 3 different screen sizes, 3 different pallet systems, 3 different squeegees and flood bars. It's a horrible idea. Kind of clever from 30,000 foot when you say, gee, if I could have the best of all these things, maybe I could combine. And for the most part, through experience in that shop in particular, but whenever anybody switches from one machine to another, if you got three green machines and you decide to buy a blue machine, or vice versa, you're asking for trouble. You're either all in or that's why. And Rock has been smart about this. When they've converted shops, they go in and they change it all. They take it all.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. Well, let's put this one in and see how you like it. Because that's the oddball. The other 3 blue machines everybody's used to. Nobody likes running that one because the flood bars are different or whatever. So you kind of either got to be all in with somebody. I don't think you can necessarily make a terrible decision with that. It comes down to, service parts, because they're all going to break. And if the Portuguese tell you that theirs doesn't break, that's bullshit too. We know that. They all break. Even if it's operator error, we're going to break something. So if I was using somebody else's money, and I have some blind loyalty sometimes to a fault, but I think you got to look at the availability of technicians. Not that M&R is doing a good job of that right now with COVID, blame it on COVID. With
fucking COVID, man. God.
Right.
Lead times and install times are pretty stretched. You got to look at parts. You got to look at service techs. You got to look at warranty. You got to look at they're manufactured here in the U.S. And the opportunity of the digital squeegee. I know we can put a digital squeegee on a Rock and it's been done, and we can put one on. I think MHM is figuring out how to make that work as well. Even the pre-press you've got, and I know this through experience. I know that some of the wax machines probably output a better dot than the eye image. But most of the time, when they show you a side-by-side comparison, they're showing you the very worst output they've ever seen on the eye image versus the very best output they've seen with the wax dots. I know they're harder, and I know you get a little bit better dot. We can resolve most of the 1%, all of the 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold on at 90 and 95%. With eye image. You just got to slow it down. You just don't run it wide open, and you run it unidirectional, and you can get some pretty good dots using an eye image. That being said, we have converted a number of the wax machines and and even other inkjet machines, where they put a 3-point system, tri-lock registration system on, but they don't really think through the touch points. The touch points have to be exactly the same. You can't have a 3-point system touch the full corner versus a half corner, because you're not going to register on press. I mean, these are dumb things. So I travel with tri-lock blocks from the fixture, and I install them on the wax machines and make them hit in exactly the same place. Because if they don't, there's always something, whether it's a piece of glue, a piece of tape,
weld or something. Yeah.
Yeah. You just don't give yourself a chance if you're not touching it exactly the same points. The eye image has exactly the same points. Those kinds of things are built in what I would consider buying a system, and not an easy sell, but when I'm talking to a customer that's looking at doing an install and what do you think makes the most sense? I just had a customer in this same Canadian customer that bought a bunch of equipment right after Long Beach. He went to Long Beach to actually get his eyes and his hands on the M&R equipment that he was looking at. And he did everything from eye image, Unicoat, Echo Rinse, Echo Tex, Cobra, dryer,
Everything.
all of it. Yeah. But he fell in love with the rock equipment because they were there, and he got some attention and got to play with some of the equipment and touch it and feel it. And he made a connection there. He's a young guy, and they're all pretty young as well, and excited about printing t-shirts. But as he reevaluated everything, he got prices from everybody. M&R is finally to the point, and it's taken 30 years plus. They have like a turnkey system from coating all the way through the end of the dryer. Rock has some pretty nice, I think, presses and some interesting things going on. From what I understand, their dryers aren't as superior as M&R's dryers, and they don't have a lot on the front end that's manufactured all together. Not to say that if you bought a laser machine to do your imaging and you bought a Lotus Holland developer and not to say that wouldn't work, but it's harder for somebody that's going, say, doesn't know anything, or from a manual to an auto operation, and they're investing in all this automated equipment. It's a little harder to wrap your arms around this Saudi laser, this Lotus Holland developer or reclaim machine, this rock press, and maybe a rock dryer, maybe not, depending on.
I've never really thought about it this way, but you're right, because the Unicoat has the same screen basically, as the recipe screen as the EcoRinse,
Yep.
and the EcoRinse has the same screen and the same e-stop and the same reset buttons and everything like that as the EcoText, and it has the same screen as the Sprint 3000, like a lot of that familiarity that's going to just make you faster and make it more plug and play and all this kind of stuff within a system. Sure. Anyway, makes sense. I mean, of course you want the same presses just because of palettes and flashes and all that sort of stuff, right. Interchangeability. And also if, a person could walk from a 10 color to a 14 or something, if they're both M&Rs and not have to get much training, they can just run the press. But like the whole system, I've never really even thought about it like that. And we have a whole system of a company, except for, I guess, just one thing. One thing is different within our system. It wasn't always like that, but we switched out something. And it's also nice because then you have one contact and you have one phone number, generally one service tech, one parts department, the whole thing. Sure. So
and there are some interchangeable parts as well. If you've got, spare parts for XYZ and like they all have similar, many of them have the same battery for the programming. So if you've got something goes down or you're not smart enough to have batteries replaced and you're dead in the water, you can borrow a battery from one to the next.
Yeah, we have proxes here, like spare proxes, because the proxes work on a lot of the stuff, and so it's great. You're right.
And not to say that you can't, because we all have done it for years and years before M&R had kind of more of a cohesive system, in which you have to. I think at startup, it's so much easier to wrap some SOPs around. Everything matches each other. So the training and the learning to how it all fits together, I think, is a little bit easier to teach from my perspective. There's no question that you could take each component and say, you know what, I like the very best image machine might be something outside of that. But does the value in that outweigh the value of it all being a cohesive system? And that's just, you decide that, because these guys in Canada, the laser was really sexy to them. You decide that. I mean, it is sexy and it's cool as hell. Can you make it fit inside the system, or are you creating more problems or more training or understanding on how to plug it into the rest of the system? And that's only for, I think, the people buying the equipment to kind of make those evaluations and decisions based on, the positives of this versus the positives of that.
All right. So we've decided it's going to be blue. What would the technology now would you put in that shop if you had the choice? Like, would you put a DS in? Would you put a Maverick in? Would you put the Polaris in? Would you go Cobra or a Gauntlet, or what would you do? Dream shop.
I am I call them deuces. We have all Gauntlet 2s, and they're all paid for, by the way. So, because everybody asks, why don't you buy a 3? Why don't you buy a 3? Because it's paid for. I love the 3 series, but I've got a chance to work on the Cobra with GSG the last three times at shows. We do the demo work for them, so I've actually got to operate and set them up, and I like the way that thing operates and how smooth it is, and the lift and lower, because the Series 3s get all bound up on the 4 points instead of the 2 points. There's some things about the Cobra that I think I like better than the Series 3. One of you guys run a Cobra, right?
Andy has a Cobra. I have a G3.
I have one, and I have one on its way, and there's I'm beta-ing a certain part of it, which is going to be kind of neat. It's going to go into all the Cobras and all the G4s, which I don't know if might have to cut that part out. But yeah,
I'm under retainer with M&R, so
we're all good. But there's this new, so I'm getting a membrane switch. So, on the top, there's toggles for squeegee flood locks and front and backs, screen locks. What else? Oh, and that head flips up and down. There's a lock for that. So all of it's going to the top. It's going to membrane switches, which is really neat because squeegee speed, squeegee and flood speed, which is really cool because you can control from your control panel at the, standing at the load station, you can control the squeegee speed anywhere on press, and so if you need to speed it up or slow it down or whatever, you have to stop and walk over. Pretty neat.
That's really nice.
Yeah. Exciting about that part. Cool. I don't know if I'll regret the fact because you were just talking about how continuity among presses. Well, everybody's so used to, toggles and going and operating like that. And now all of a sudden we're going to have something different on top. Like, is that going to be?
Yeah, but that's just new technology that you'll eventually implement into the rest of the shop anyway.
Yeah.
How big are your Cobras?
So we have, the one we have is a 12 and the one we're getting is a 14. And that's as big as they make them for now because of the indexer. They had this Cobra XL, which I don't know if you saw at M&R. If you were up there, they had that for a while.
They've been struggling with the bit more. They can't get it to work right.
Mm-hmm. It's tough. When you put 14, so if, 16 print arms and 16 pallets gets heavy as shit,
Well, they did that with the Series 1 machines. That's why they had to build the Series 2. They're just too big, long, lanky, floppy, won't register. No matter how beefy and strong you make them, your 16, 18 colors is way the hell out there.
Right.
And I think, to answer your original question, I think if I were getting bigger machines, I would probably get G3s. I don't think I would step up to Challenger 3s because they're a whole lot more money and you really only get a little more print stroke, and you can push. I'm sure you push your G3 with the right screens, you can get a 21-inch print stroke.
Yeah, we're running 25-36s on anything that big, and we have plenty of room to do whatever we want to do.
Yeah, I mean, the only time you'd need a Challenger is if you're doing like all over stuff, and their 18 color Challenger is probably 30 to 50,000 more than an 18 color G3. If they get the Cobra figured out on the bigger machines, I just love how quiet they are. And I guess that doesn't really change things. When you have, I
love how difficult of a question this is. He's like, kid in a candy store, like, I don't know if I want that or if I want that.
Well, it is pretty neat about the Cobra, like you said. So the screen is pushed down with just 2 cylinders instead of on all 4 corners, which is harder to time. And also it takes more cylinders, some more parts, but it's just front and a back.
Yeah.
On the Cobra, which is a neat design. I think it's really cool. And it is super quiet. I mean, in fact, you can't hear it run because the dryer is louder. You literally can't hear. You sort of hear the chop of the squeegee. That's it. Kind of.
I like them. I do. I still think though, if I were outfitting a 6 automatic shop, 10 automatic shop, I would pick one or the other. If I were starting, rather than both. And I would probably, at this very moment, they'd probably be G3s. But I would, if they can get their shit together on the bigger Cobras, I would, because I guess the sales point is that it has the nimbleness and flexibility of a Sporty with some of the high-end features that the G3 has. Yeah. And it sounds like
That's
they're going to put some more of the Cobra stuff on the new G4. Because some things are better, it appears, on the Cobra. And maybe
there are just like little things too, like with the off contact knob being one in the middle instead of one on each corner. And they have the finer micro adjustment knobs that I don't have.
Those are sweet. Those are sweet.
And they have the airlocks for bringing the heads down, where I still have the red knob.
That was do you know that A-frame that's on your Gauntlet 3, that A-frame was designed by Stretch Devices, Newman Roller Frames, in the early 90s.
Are you talking about the part that grabs the frame?
No, the whole A-frame that's on the G3, that the clamps down here, and then the bolt, all thread, and then it's stuck to an A-frame that pivots up. If you look at it sideways, it's an A, so they call it an A-frame. Back in the early 90s, Stretch Devices was trying to sell pin registration systems. They still sell a pin registration system. And at that time, the machines were so, everything was moving so much that they couldn't put together a registration system. So they would go in and outfit these Challengers with what they called their A-frame assembly. And then Rich got with Don Newman and made an arrangement. I think Don gets a nickel every time they sell an A-frame or something, but that was all designed to add major rigidity to the front clamp. So all of the strength is in the front clamp. There's not much strength in the back clamp. It just holds it in place. And that's sort of why some of the rock machines have a teeny little back channel.
It's just like a post.
Yeah, it's just holding the back of the frame. So that's why when you mic,
it's like a post with a silver dollar attached to it.
Yeah. But now that they figured out how to hook the assembly for that rigidity, that makes as much sense or more than the A-frame, and probably a whole lot cheaper to manufacture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you've never been to Roselle, Illinois, and toured M&R, even if you don't run M&R, it's just an amazing tour.
Like, it is.
It is.
It was amazing before they moved to Roselle. I mean, it's amazing because they had it in 2 buildings before they moved over there, and now it's way more efficient, way I mean, they got an amazing showroom, and you should go and get the tour and do the whole, their whole deal is they like everybody's busy, but they do like to entertain. It's sort of,
Well, if they're too busy, Dylan's always there. He's there every other week. So
I'm there fucking all the time.
give you a tour.
I've been there so many times. That's why I feel lucky that the first time I was there and took the tour, I took the tour with Rich. So that I'm super thankful for, because I've done the tour like 5 other times since then, like bringing people there. And I feel like this is no disrespect to whoever gave me the tour after the fact, but like that tour is maybe like an hour and a half or like an hour long or whatever of like just going around the factory. When I did it with Rich, I swear it took like 6 hours.
Yeah.
And it was like mostly just me and Rich bullshitting the entire time.
You betcha. You know, and not to say that you're not special, but the first time I did the tour with Rich, it was the same deal. You know, he spends the day with you. He takes the time to spend the day. And I thought, wow, that's really something. You know, I must be special. He must really like me. He does that with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. Everybody you've ever talked to that got the tour from him or has a relationship with Rich, the amazing things that
you're a lifelong customer after that.
Yep. And that's why I say I bleed blue. I had and I'm not, no disrespect to the guys in green. I had the opportunity to convert, and I got a call. I was at dinner with a customer, and they had a couple of them on a conference call and made the pitch. And I kind of giggled and just said, you know, I'm flattered and I appreciate that you think I'm an influencer. But I couldn't break Rich's heart. There's no way I could do that. Even if I thought the equipment was better, and I'm not saying that it is, I don't think I could have done it. Mm-hmm. He's done too many good things for the community. And for me personally, he's done some pretty out of the ordinary things for
same for me. Yep. I'm too deep at this point. Like I do too much with them, and I love the crew there. I love everybody there. I would never be able to. But my thing was in the beginning is, for me, it was like when I was younger and I was getting into this and I was so like trying to build my shop and trying to get things where I wanted. Like I always wanted that blue press. Like all of my heroes had M&Rs and everything. And it was like, when I finally got it, I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I'm there. So now it's like having everything in there. It's just like, I feel so good about, like you said, like having the flow of everything. And like you said, just going to M&R and working with them on certain projects. It's just nice to be like in the family, I guess.
And we're all three here. I guess we all bleed blue. We're all M&R fans, but
we're not very diverse.
For those who are listening, I think it's important to say that whatever you choose, whatever manufacturer you choose, it's important. It's important to choose a press that's going to not break down on you every other day or anything like that. But the easy part, I feel like, in screen printing is learning how to screen print. The hard part is actually running the entire business. And so, I mean, you can be the best screen printer in the world, and that doesn't mean you're going to sell any shirts. And so, I think you need to pick a manufacturer and then invest in them and build relationships with them, and then go about and do the hardest part, and that is hiring people and actually selling T-shirts.
We talked about this a million times, though. Is it's just like it's parts and service. It's like if you're in an area or you have someone that you're connected to and who you know that works really good with a certain manufacturer, then go with that manufacturer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like, just do what makes the most sense for you.
Yeah.
And it's like us three have had instances where blue was what worked out for us. So that's what we did.
Yeah. And it's in our DNA to be rivals and to be loyal to whatever like we have. And so if you don't have blue, fuck off. Like, yeah, we're gonna let's fight. But I have a question for you. Finish this sentence. Are you ready? The best printers in the world make
the best screens.
Exactly. And so what do you mean by that? It's a Lonism or a saying, I guess, that
You actually read it. And I have made a particular effort to be very friendly with some of the very best printers in the world, not because I want to put myself in the same category I'd like to think that we're pretty damn good printers. And I embrace the craft of it probably way too much. I embrace the, I always
That's
think
the nerd. That's the nerd in all of us that wants to go deep.
But it's crazy how much you have in common personally with similar people. And, when you first get to meet, some of the best printers in the world. And by that, I mean, I would put like Michelle Moxley in that group. I would put Mark Gervais in that group. I would put Jamie from Tegra. I'm probably leaving out a bunch of Kudre at one point. Andy Anderson probably is the godfather. He was probably my best mentor.
That was one of the coolest things I think I've done is like visited Andy's new workshop he has now. Like it was like last year. And just like he walked me through like his entire career. And we were like in his back room in his office, like going through pictures. And he has like a wall of totes of like all these super rad prints he's ever done. And he's just like pulling them down. And I'm like, oh, what's going to be in this tote? And it's like Garth Brooks. And like, it's just like tons and tons of like the coolest shit. And he's just like super open to be like, let's talk about it. And then in the corner is like, oh, I'm building a motorcycle. And here I'm like painting a tank. And here he's like, I've been working on this motorcycle for 30 years. And it's just like, it was such a fucking rad visit.
He probably helped me in my career from the craftsman perspective, the control what you must, and then, dial it in, and you never let the art get away from you because there's still an art to getting it just right. I got a little story. I love telling stories. 22 years old, production manager at Golden Squeegee, 23. We get a contract from a company called Lean and True, which is a card company, like birthday cards. And they've got all this art that they bought from famous artists, and they want to do them on t-shirts. And back then it was okay to print on a white shirt. So our first 4-color process work that we ever did was in the early 90s and didn't know anything about it. We certainly can't do the SEPs. So we farmed out the SEPs to Kudre Graphics. They were $1,000, $800 or something for a set of SEPs. You got CMYK, and then you got this proof system with transparent cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. They're laid together as the proof. And you got the films. So I'd never made much in the way of half-tone screens, let alone CMYK. So we made the screen, set it up, and it looked like dog shit. And I had the balls to call Mark Kudre and said, hey, your SEPs don't work, dude. And instead of lecturing me like the little bitch that I was, he gave me Andy's number. Said, you need to call Andy and just tell him I told you to call. And we became kick-ass process printers because Andy took me by the hand and said, okay, take a breath. Mark's SEPs are fine. You can't make screens. So that's what was kind of my first exposure circle. And all the way back to your original question, the game is made or broken by making great screens. You make great screens, you got a shot at great prints. You make shitty screens, you will, when you get to press, the best you can hope for is good enough. And maybe good enough's okay, but and here's another Lonism. I always say if we set our goals for perfection, we can settle for excellence. We know we can't be perfect, but let's set our goals up here for perfect. And if we miss a 1% dot, it's still going to be excellent. But if we set our goals for good enough and we fall short of good enough, we've got a piss poor job going out the door. Right. So that's sort of my...
What in your opinion is a good screen though? Like what are you looking for there's lots of variables, but what is an ideal screen to get you that excellence?
All of it. I don't think you can. And again, I wouldn't trade the things that I've done or how we've gone about them. We've also been a Newman roller user, promoter. We're on retainer with them as well. I believe that if you control the tension, then you control the rest of the process. So, as you know, the tension dictates. You don't decide the tension, whatever it is, high, low, medium, adequate, good, whatever. The tension dictates your off contact distance and your squeegee pressure. You have to have enough off contact distance to get and enough squeegee pressure to transfer the ink from the top of the screen to the substrate. And tension is the only controllable factor that you get to decide what those numbers are. So low tension means higher off contact, higher pressure. We're driving ink into the shirt. Now, I love the retentionable idea because we can actually dictate it. We can give it a number. We decide what that number is, and then we can set all our heads to that tension. With the newer meshes, and I say newer, they've been around now 10 years or so, they're not as technically, I think they don't elongate as much as previous meshes did before. So a good static frame in the 25 to 30 Newton range on a standard thread type mesh can stay in that mid 20s for quite a while. And you can do great work with a mid 20s tension static frame. Your off contact distance would be a little bit higher than a 40 Newton frame. And you can't, no matter what, even if you use static frames, the tension is still relevant, because when you're doing let's call it a real high-end customer, high-end sim process, something that's going to require my screens to be dialed, I either am using new screens or my newest screens or my best screens or my cleanest screens, all of the above. And that's because the tensions are probably a little bit higher and they're a little bit more the same. So the only thing worse than low tension is variable tension. So if you have a brand new screen at 30 Newtons and you put it in the press with a screen at 19 Newtons, by definition, they won't register. They're not going to stretch the same. They're not going to, that off contact distance on the 19 is going to be higher than the off contact distance on the 30, and pressure is going to be higher here than it is here. So you're just going to really fight making those things register together. So I think, just again, back to the original question, just by managing tension, putting like tensions together, new versus old, lower tension on my one color work kind of stuff, managing it will increase a static frame user's work a little bit, because now you've kind of even the score and put the math all in the same ballpark. Because if you're running the same off contact distance and squeegee pressure, one of them's not ideal, because that tension is what controls how much pressure and off contact distance we need.
Do you have knowing how important tension is, and even more important, like tension, does your screen tech, after reclaim, take a measurement every single time, so that, let's say, you can, keep that data, put it in, and then coat, and then have it in your rack, and then you can pull like tensions? Are you that? I mean, because that's possible to do, right?
Right.
It's, maybe you would you'd almost have to hire somebody that's going to be dedicated to, like, it's for us anyway, our screen tech is stretched too thin. Talking about stretched, it's stretched too thin right now, because our screen tech is Kyle, and he coats the screens, he images them, he exposes them, he rinses them, he tapes them, and he runs the schedule. And so am I going to say, hey, Kyle, by the way, we want to keep track of tension all the time, every single time. Like, I want to know the tension of every single screen as it comes before we code it. I think that's a good thing, right? Obviously, I mean, because like you said, and especially with registration on press, that makes, the time it takes to that you're spending recording and keeping and tracking tension, you're going to save on press because like the reasons you said. And so the thing is we don't have that person. And so it's probably kind of silly. We should track tension,
All these things are it's a relative thing. We're working with a customer in Chicago that's pretty significant, and they've got multiple automatics and digital squeegees, and for the most part, they have a single person running the screen department. And we helped them build out their facility, so it's got kind of our fingerprints on it. But what they're struggling with right now is a screen man wants to do all of those things. He's got enough interest and enough, I guess, aptitude to want to measure tensions, to want to sort tensions, to want to measure stencil thicknesses, stencil thicknesses, all those kinds of things. But there's a practical balance of that too. So it's somewhere in between. You sort of got to walk before you run, crawl before you walk, all those kinds of things. But even if you started with a little round sticker system and said everything that's below X tension gets a purple sticker. Mm-hmm. That way, when you're going, you do get that more critical job. You can pull all red dots because we know they're within a certain tension. I don't necessarily have a database full of all my screens, but that's what I'm trying to convince this guy of. Get your arms wrapped around one thing first. Don't.
That makes sense. Like to have a range. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Because there's a practical position. I brought up the 1% because Jason's my right-hand man, been with me for 30 years. He came on when he was 19 and he's 46. So not quite 30, 27 years. But anyway, he took some pictures of his resolution because this guy was trying to resolve 1% dots. And we were texting back and forth and I said, you don't need 1% dots. Don't worry about it. If you get to 5 and a few of the 4, you're good. You're hanging on in the upper 80s. You're good. You're good enough. The kind of work you guys do, 55 LPI, there's no reason that you should wrestle 1% and then drop off the top 15 or whatever that you're going to sacrifice. And there's a reality. Can you make a perfect screen? Again, like I said, dog, you're out of control. Again, we make an excellent screen. We blew up Jason's grayscale, and I said, "Oh, you missed a couple, 3 of those 1% dots." But it's an excellent screen because our goal was perfect. So reality might only be 5 to 85, and you can still get nice prints out of 5 to 85. You might, the transition to 0 in a fade, you might have to work extra hard on that one screen, but there's practicality along with that desire to theoretically hit that perfection level. And I think maybe that's why when we do our work on site, you have to, there's reality. What is our customer expectations? And by exceeding them, do we gain from that? Or again, I'm not saying we should shoot for a good enough level, but I do think that people usually it's individuals, less so business owners, because you're always pragmatic about trying
to carry away.
Yeah. But I do think that everybody can always improve. And we're all, like you said, do you catalog it? No, in fact, the last 2 years last year, we probably had our best financial year ever. And it's because I'm reconnected inside the shop. I'm not on the road all the time. And a lot of the things that I'm lecturing clients about, we need to get screens logged and put like tensions together. And I'm finding stuff that we haven't been doing in years, that I just assumed we were still doing work.
Isn't that weird how that works? Because, we have our policies, I guess, or our systems, our procedures. And it's funny how a month will go by and then 3 months and 6 months. And all of a sudden we're not doing those fundamental things anymore. It's
Yeah.
sort of like, oh, we're skipping this step because, we just don't have the time, or maybe that person's not here anymore. And it's like you're just building and building and building and progress is being made and you're getting better. But reality is sometimes you're not even doing some of those fundamental things anymore. You're like, well, shit, when did this happen?
Yep. Yeah. And then I was rudely awakened with many of the things that we sort of have let slide. And if you do it every day, then you're kind of back immersed in it again, and you start to, COVID has sucked, but again, there's been some good things, and some of it for me has been kind of reconnecting with the day to day.
I have a story about an employee that sort of struggled with that. There's a new designer here, and our designers do the final approvals before we run a job. So they are familiar with the art, and so and also the customer and the placement and just everything about it. And so they do the final before we actually run. And if you're that person and you're saying, like yes or no, there's a press operator, press assistant, a quality control, and a production manager, and they're wanting to, they have a schedule to adhere to, but then you're telling them, no, this isn't good enough. And that's hard. Sometimes that's hard to tell, somebody running a press that, look, wait, time out. It's either this isn't printing how I want it to. And I said to her, look, well, you can let it slide and you can say, I don't want to hold the press up. This is fine. It's good enough. Like you just said, your example, it's good enough. Or you can say, nope, we're going for excellence and this is where I want to be. And so you're going to have to tweak something to make it better. And I said, they may be upset with you at the moment, like, fuck, I've got to mess with this some more and to get it just right. But they'll also respect you. Like long term, they may bitch about you a little bit, like, oh man, I can't believe I had to do this or that, but they're going to respect you in a different way, And so just and I said, which do you want to be? Like, which do you want them? Do you want them to respect you, or do you want them to say, oh, it's cool, like she lets it slide? And so she made a good choice right then.
There you go.
It made it easier, I thought, anyway. And so,
sure,
but yeah, I mean, it's tough because. And it's not like that press operator or anything wants to put out bad stuff. I mean, because they don't. But there comes a point sometimes where you have to get a few jobs done, and you have to hit print start and get going.
Right.
So
Sure.
When is it diminishing returns? That is, like how good does it have to be? And those are tough decisions.
They are, and I feel like the bar has been lowered a bit in the last decade. And I'm kind of relearning what my priorities are as a business owner and as a printer. I've always looked at myself as a printer, and it's become painfully obvious that I need to be more focused on being a business owner. For obvious reasons on the business ownership part, but the customer expectations have lowered a bit, and I can't say for sure why. I think in many ways it's because of the Amazon custom ink result. Everything's good enough that you get. I mean, it's for a birthday party, and I'm going to change the oil in it tomorrow anyway. So and we've done some work for custom ink, and I'm not trashing them, but they're not craftsmen. They're not building the best print that they can build. But in so many ways, if you're sending that approval back and making them make a new screen because it's not quite right, where is that where are you between good enough and perfect? You know, I want to be better than good enough, but we don't have the ability, the time or the money to make it a 9. We're going to have to, you know, I don't want to settle for a 5. I want to at least be a 6 or 7, but I don't want to spend what it's going to take to make it a 9, because I don't think anybody wants a 9 anymore, unless we're blessed enough to be able to still do demos at trade shows and stuff. And that has to be an expectation of a 9. I can't show up with a moire pattern doing a demo at a trade show. But does my Girl Scout customer know what a moire is and give a shit? And will they care that I just took another 45 minutes to make a new screen? I don't know that I have the answers, because I'm kind of struggling with that.
That's a really good point too, because, you know, definitely some customers aren't going to care, but who makes that call? You know, so it's easy for me and you and Dylan to make that call because we own the shop and we'll take the responsibility and the liability if the customer rejects it. But how do you turn on and off, you know, like as part of the team, as an employee, how do you turn that on and off? Like, I'll let this one slide, or this one has to be perfect. It's way easier for us because we know, like, oh, you know, like, fuck that customer, they were an asshole. Print it. but they don't know.
I feel like the fear is don't let me catch you doing that. Like, don't let me catch you putting something out that's half-assed or has patterns in it, or it's fucked up, or it looks thin or whatever. It's like, it's not that I'm going to go out and like kill anybody, but it's kind of like we all try to put out the best work. And I feel like everyone here, like different operators, are looking at each other being like, really, you're going to put that out? So I feel like it's just a pride thing.
And there's culture.
Yeah,
that's hard. It's a culture. I think I was having lunch with a friend of mine from Scottsbluff, Nebraska, in Long Beach, and he said he fired a guy for how many of us have, you know, just make sure that one doesn't go on top. And he said he let a guy go because he said it right in front of him. It's like, you don't want to know that, but probably I would tuck it in a dozen somewhere. I don't think it's that bad, but we sure don't want it on top, kind of deal. But it is, as the owner, you kind of think you're making best decisions. You don't necessarily want the culture to be that, ship it, it's good enough. You don't want them kind of, well, boss doesn't care, so put it in.
That's really tough. That's
looks like shit, run it. like that's the mantra. I don't know, it's tough. Like you said, like, you don't want to say that, you don't want to put it out there, but it's the same thing of like, you're doing something for a high-end client and you want it to look really good, but then Joe's Plumbing walks in and you kind of want to make sure his stuff looks good too, but it's realistically not the same standards. It's like, you could probably use a lower tension screen on his stuff because
sure, there you go.
It's, you know, it's whatever, but I don't know. It's a difficult thing. I think you said it perfectly. I feel like, where it's like, strive for perfection and then you'll get excellence all the time. Well, not all the time, but that's the shop goal, I would say, is to not.
And that's culture that you try to instill that. And most everything that goes out is a 9. And then if you're settling for a 7 or 8 going out, you feel okay because it's still a 7 or 8. But if everything going out the door is a 6, and all of a sudden you've got some 4s, it's like, you know, and that's that race to the bottom. You become commoditized so quickly. Well, I can get a 2-color done for, you know, 40 cents less on a white shirt down the street here. If I'm not still at that. And there is a difference between, I know a 1-color dark ink on a light shirt is not all that hard, but if you cut it and you smooth it and you know, there's a lot of things that'll make that 1 color a little bit nicer than the guy using the 110 down the street that's dumping a bunch of goo on top of a light shirt. So I think you can push the level of your expectation and create a culture here. And then the crew hesitates when they're sending a 7. They go, oh, this doesn't look as good as what we normally send. And then you can make that final decision. I think we're good. Let's go ahead and ship it.
So what's going on with Graphic Elephants right now, and like your consulting and all that stuff? Tell us more about that situation.
We shifted a few years before COVID, and on the consulting side of our business into more of a retainer model, and we kind of determined that this blind loyalty for 30 years, whether I've done it on purpose or it's been convenient or it just worked out that way, maybe I can leverage it and get some manufacturers and dealers to actually pay consulting fees, rather than the model previous to that is we would exhibit at trade shows, and when you came up and said, hey, that print's really cool, we'd try to sell you a $10,000 package, or I think at that time, $7,000 or $8,000 to come into your place for a week. And we would leave with a laundry list, and you'd look at that list and go, I know all this stuff. I wish I hadn't spent $10,000 to know that I need to improve here, here, and here. And it's a totally one and done model, because even if you felt like you got value out of it, you're going to look at your list and go, I still haven't done that. I don't think I want to bring him back next year. So we were doing 20 of those a year or something. And then I would have to replace all of those next year. Every now and again, I'd get, repeat type of business. But most of the time it's too big of a number to waste it if I haven't made any improvements to come back.
So
again.
you would, let me get this straight. So you would fly. So let's say a shop says we want you to consult. You'd fly there. You would do this remotely, or you would actually fly to the location for a week?
We'd actually be on location for a week.
When you said we, that who? Your team? Party?
I'm a we guy. It's me. Yes.
It's him and the mouse in his pocket.
Yeah. I built a business model. I was hoping I could put a group together. I've got 3 guys that have been with me over 25 years, all 3 of them, some of them over 30 years. Even if they don't necessarily do something right, they do it consistently the way we've always done it. So the idea was to ultimately have kind of a consortium of consultants that could spend time in people's plants. That dwindled to, if I'm paying for you, I want you. So I got Jason out a few times. I got Ken out a few times, but it didn't really, they want a discount if it's not me. So it didn't really kind of work to perfection like I hoped it would work. And this one and done thing was kicking my ass. I was always friendly with those customers, and once we did a gig, they were calling all the time, wanting some information about this, that, and the other thing. So that's really hard, I think,
in 1 week to, say, here's some of the things you're doing, and here's where you have to be or get to anyway. And to accomplish that all in a week, it seems almost impossible.
So you'd be a really good client. No, when people fork out $10,000, they think that I'm going to solve the world's problems in a week. And a lot of the on-site stuff was psychology. I would spend the week trying to make people like me, so they didn't think they wasted their money. And that's an oversimplified. I had one client in Texas that I really thought I could not break through to this production manager, because usually the owner writes the checks. Hey, we need somebody like you to come in and get us fixed up. And 30 years of bad habits, or 20 or 10 or whatever it is, it's a pretty big job. And so you spend your first couple of days trying to get to know what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it the way they're doing it. And then, like I said, this place in Texas, I couldn't break through the production manager, because that's who you end up working with. The owner's running his business. He needs somebody to help him with workflow and maybe some technique or whatever. So you're trying, for lack of better terms, I'm just trying to get the production manager to like me. And this place in Texas, I swore this guy, he did not like me and he wasn't going to like me. He's done it this way for 30 years. And every time I'd show him, hey, have you tried this? Tried to make it his idea, lots of different methods. I said, I just, by the end of the week, it's like, this guy just don't like me. And no matter what I tell him.
Was it like he didn't like you, or he was more resistant to change? Like he was like, look,
yeah, yes, I think a combo. I think I don't want to learn anything new was number one. And I don't think I really like you, number two. It was interesting though, as I didn't feel like we accomplished anything. So by week's end, the owner called me. I usually have kind of a wrap up meeting with the owner, and here's what we've accomplished. I'll get you a report back. And he called me in his office. I'm like, oh God, because I think he still owed us. We try to get paid up front, but I think he still owed us the final whatever. And he's going to say he didn't get his money's worth. The production manager says that I didn't do anything for him. And he just sat me down and said, wow, so-and-so said he learned so much from you this week. I wish we had you coming in for another week. It's like the weirdest, kind of, it's hard, for lack of a better way to put it. It's just hard going into a place. Nobody knows you. You're being jammed into a situation. The owner thinks you can fix everything in a week, and the production manager doesn't need anybody's help. So that's what you walk into, and you shake hands and go, "Hi, how you doing?" So a few years back, we flipped it to, I have multiple printer clients that have me come once a year, twice a year, once a quarter, that are kind of the special clients that saw the value and said, hey, we need to have you come back next year. Hey, we need to have you come. How often can you come? So we just built a monthly charge and a quarterly charge and different approaches for those clients. And then I took that idea to the manufacturers and dealers that we've been working with for 30 plus years and said, hey, what if we do some benchmarking for you? What if we do, there has to be some value in us bleeding blue. What else can we do for you guys? How can we earn a nickel from 5 manufacturers to add up to a nice income that we're doing work for, and we can do combo work for? I mean, we're going to use the screens on this press and we're going to make them using that. And we're going to put this ink in them. And so we're doing work with Avient and M&R and GSG, Stretch Devices, Sherlock, Murakami.
What do you what do you like better? Do you like the consulting part of your business, or do you like the graphics part or running your operations? I mean, what's your favorite part?
I think my favorite part is the community. I like getting to know the other printers. And it's been, I feel like I'm at a place in my career that I've had the luxury of some really good mentors and folks that have come before me that are older and have since retired or less involved or gone for that matter. But I also can connect to some of the newer generation of people that are in the business. And that's exciting to me because that's where I was when I got into the business. Or it's fun to see people think printing t-shirts is cool again. So I kind of am at but just kind of a middle ground in being connected to those guys that flat out invented it, from, plastisol to four-color process to, the Coudres and Joe Clarks and Richard Greaves and Bill Hoods and that kind of profile, all the way to, I relate with these guys from Ryanette and Rock US, and it's fun to be able to have conversations with 20 somethings and that have the same passion as 70 somethings. I guess that's probably what I like the best. And so I like the people and I love the craft. I love working with people on the craft. That's kind of fun because there's all these things you learn along the way that aren't necessarily rocket science, and you didn't invent anything, but easier ways to do things that people haven't experienced yet. I mean, you guys know how this business is. You start and you learn on the fly, and every time you fuck something up, you hope you don't do it again. So you're banking all these experiences to get better and better and better at what you do. And I think, that's kind of a mushy answer, but I don't necessarily like the stress of entering a new shop that I don't know the people. Like I said, that part I don't like. I do like once we get into the ink and start having some fun with the people that are doing the work. That part's fun. Once we get past that discovery and you're not a threat to me and you're not going to tell me I'm doing everything wrong. Because that's the initial reaction to a production manager, is that they're hiring somebody to come in and tell me how to do my job.
Right. They didn't think I was good enough.
Yeah.
I'm kind of with you. I think that my favorite part now is definitely the community. Definitely.
It's like the screen printers playing golf kind of thing. It's like we're at that point in our lives where business is still there, but we can play golf on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's like we just want to hang out with our friends in the industry and do the things, and printing's still there.
What you guys are doing here is pretty cool. I got a chance to listen to quite a few of them over the last few weeks. They're fun. I think it's got to peel the curtain back and be transparent, just bullshit with each other and have some straight up conversations. And it feels like there's some takeaways in about every one of you guys' shirt shows.
What's the thing is we're just trying to have a conversation. We're not trying to sell anybody anything. We're not trying to be biased in any way. We just want to talk like we were at a trade show or at a bar or whatever with whoever we're talking to, shooting the shit, talking about stories. So
this feels more valuable than most of the online content, because I think at first during COVID, it was everybody scrambled to get something virtual, and the virtual trade shows, the virtual gatherings that are too structured. I got real tired of that real fast. Where this content is, you can have it on in the background and listen to it, and something strikes you, you can rewind it and check it again. And there seems like there's more value in this type of thing than there is in some structured virtual event.
What was that? Hold on, Lon, can he tell that to some more potential sponsors?
I was going to say that's not by design. That's just because we had no idea what we were doing. Like we just hit record and started talking, so there wasn't structure.
Well, it's like talking to you right now, Lon. Like we have no questions. Like I have no list of things I need to talk to you about. It's like
I had a question.
We rolled in. Yeah. Well, I'm just saying we might have a couple things we want to specifically ask you, but it's not like I have a structured let's hit every bullet point. It's like everything we talked about, we rolled from one thing to the next thing because of just we're shooting the shit. So
it's cool. Whether it was by design or not, sometimes they say, was it better to be lucky and good?
Okay, so let's talk about some structure here. I do have some listener questions, and I feel like almost all of them are from Eric at Night Owl and Tony at Tiny Fish. Hold on, let me get to them.
Night Owl and Daybird.
Yeah. Tyler from Black Rifle asks, what's the story behind Be the Elephant?
It all came basically from always giving the receptionists a hard time, and there was no way that they could not say graphic elephants once it got into their head.
You had trouble. You kept trying to say graphic elements, and you kept saying graphic elephants.
See, exactly. And it was it sort of stuck, and my wife and I are just elephant people. We've got a bunch of sculptures, and my daughter's an art teacher in Omaha, and she's has painted us several elephant paintings that are hanging throughout the house, and it just sort of worked. And the logo was created by a buddy of ours that we were just doing trade work for at the time. And it's just got a kind of a powerful feel. And the red and black's kind of a thing. Everything I own is black. And if it has any color in it at all, it might be red. So it's sort of a magic fit, and it's evolved with us over the, we've been exclusively graphic elephants for over 15 years now.
I thought it was going to be like Ted Lasso, where his saying is be a goldfish or be like a goldfish, because you have this really short-term memory. Well, if you're be like an elephant, they have a really long-term memory. So remember everything.
Well, there's that too. There's all kinds of things. My family has some political views that align with the elephant as well. And I mean, there's 100 things that kind of all come behind so again, I wouldn't tell you it was purposeful. It was a little like,
it was a joke.
Yeah. And now I can backfill it with all kinds of stuff for reasoning behind it, but it was just a way to immediately move into, rising from the ashes into what it is we're going to be. And it's stuck, and it's a good solid brand. Even if we don't, people can't remember it's graphic elephants, it's elephant something, it's elephant graphics, graphic elephants, elephant something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It sticks. Eric and I'll ask, what are some people from the industry folks should know more about?
Screens.
People. Who are some people that that like don't stand out necessarily, but people should know more about? You listed some of them earlier because you were talking about some of the greats that you looked up to.
Yeah. I would just always, if I were given advice about people, it's any of these guys that have been there before you, they can teach you something. And just like you guys being free with your time and efforts to spread the wealth, most of those guys are absolutely open to conversations. And Mark Coudray has it's called Catalyst. That
I've done it.
Yeah, there's some, and I've been a part of that for several years now. And I honestly, I've teased him for years, actually, the whole group, that it's like almost like a therapy session, especially during COVID, because we were all experiencing many of the same things, but you're stuck by yourself and you can't emote to other people that are in nearly the same boat. That really helped me kind of get through some of those really, really tough times, and just being able, and Eric is part of that as well. And being able to relate to each other and what we're all kind of feeling or dealing with, and it's been really valuable. In, like I said, I got the 80-20 information from
Right.
Catalyst group. And there's been a lot of really helpful exercises within that. I'm not trying to sell that. It's been a good group to be a part of.
I mean, I think that's a really a good point for anyone. I mean, even if it's not Catalyst, even if it's not listening to the show or whatever, I think that I think as screen printers, I think that as entrepreneurs, it's sort of lonely. And then it was compounded, like you said, by COVID. And so if you've got a shot, or if you have a chance to connect with some other printers, no matter where they are in the whole world, you can do that now. And
Sure.
And so my advice is, like, if you haven't done that, just reach out to a few and say, hey, I'm starting a text chat. You want to be in it, and don't make it too large. That's a mistake you can make, because then your phone
Sure.
never shuts up. But I mean, just a little small group, and just that you can say, hey, and it doesn't have to be about solving problems or, hey, what tension or what emulsion do you use or anything like that. I mean, sure, you can talk about that stuff, but it can be just, today sucked. We're slow as shit. I want to give up, fuck this, and just go work at at McDonald's or something. And so I think it's just that support, so.
Yeah.
I hear that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of influencers, and because of the internet, the two of you obviously are influencers, but there's a bunch of places to get to know more people, more business owners, more printers, whatever it is within. I look at some of the stuff that Printavo's doing. There's a guy to know. Bruce, there's a guy to know. Now that he and Jerry Jones are tight, what is that all about, huh? But there, I think that you got to be sleeping under a rock not to notice the influencers that are moving and shaking, that are super friendly and would be more than happy to strike up a conversation in one way or another.
Yeah, I agree. Next question is, do you have any crazy trade show stories? Or I guess your craziest trade show story.
All right. There are several, but I'll throw one at you. So we have a reputation now. We've been doing it for years and years. Whenever GSG exhibits with an automatic or a manual, we do all their art and testing and retesting and screen making and demo stuff at the trade show. We've also done stuff for M&R and for Stretch Devices, all the people that I just mentioned. And that's all part of kind of our retainer relationship. But before all of this, and this will end up back in Rich Hoffman's lap. Before all of this, I'm just dropping names all over the place. Charlie Toblieb came into Graphic Elements at the time and said, "Hey, you want to go to Germany?" I said, "Hell yeah, I want to go to Germany. I'd never really traveled internationally before. Yeah, I want to go to Germany. What?" So I just need you to make a few screens and do some demo work on some MHM equipment. And they're having a worldwide open house, and they're inviting all their dealers in. I need you to give a kind of a quick seminar on how the M&R equipment compares to the MHM equipment, or what are the differences and stuff. I'm all in, thumbs up. Before he leaves the building, I get a pallet full of unassembled Newman roller frames that have nipples on them. Those of you that have run M&R or MHM know that they've got little plugs and nipples and holes, and that's how things line up on MHMs. So I don't even know how to build these things, let alone they're the wrong size. Nothing fits. I can't test print, and I don't even know that I'm supposed to test print. So we took a couple of designs. We did a Great Dane Graphics design, and I did a Einstein design that we've had all over our site and stuff, and printed it 1,000 times. Didn't test print it. Made all these stupid frames and got them all 3 sets. Got them to Germany. When I set everything up at the trade show, I had a moire pattern, and Dane's design had a moire in it too. I can't remember exactly where. So he was pissed at me, and I don't even know how to operate an MHM, let alone actually.
You just wanted to go to Germany.
Yeah, I just wanted to go to Germany. So I was thoroughly embarrassed, and I found out later Rick Roth, who runs MHMs, said he was supposed to do that because that's what he does. He does for MHM what we do for M&R. That's his deal, or was his deal at that time. And apparently Charlie horked in. I don't know if he got paid or what however he did it, somehow was cheaper than what Rick bid it at or something. So he got the deal. Dane and I did all the work, and I basically embarrassed all of us. But at that show, Rich Hoffman pulled me aside, and this has got to be 20 years ago, easy, maybe more. He pulled me aside. He said, talking like my father would, he said, "You'll never do a demo for MHM again." And I'm like, "Oh, am I getting my ass chewed, or how's this looking right now?" But we're going to have you start doing demo stuff for us. So it kind of because I did it for them, it opened the door and got me in with doing demo stuff for their dealers and M&R and ultimately ending up in some type of arrangement with them.
So did you, what did you do? Did you scramble and like reclaim that screen, re-expose it like the one that had that pattern, or did you just?
I just covered my face and
It's part of the artwork.
kept running it.
Did it on purpose?
Yeah. No charge for the bonus pattern. And it was pretty embarrassing. You know what though? You guys probably would have noticed it. Rick certainly noticed it, and printers notice it. But 85% of the people that
They don't know what a moire pattern is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was that good enough spot again.
Yeah.
All right. Any more questions, Dylan, or we go?
Yeah. Hold on. A lot of them have to do with how magnificent your hair is, Lon.
My wife's real thrilled about that too.
All right. I got two more quick ones because I'm curious. Tony at Tiny Fish asks, do you think S Mesh is worth the hype for a clumsy shop?
Clumsy.
Short answer, if you think you're clumsy, the answer is yes. Do not invest in S Mesh if you're clumsy, because it's thinner, as you know. It's thin thread, so it's more fragile. And if you're already breaking mesh with standard thread, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense for you because you're going to go through more mesh. But there's some big advantages in it. You got more open area, ink falls through it. If you do a lot of water base, S Mesh is great. I always kind of think thin thread fits in certain places. I have friends that are running all thin thread. I think that in certain applications, like a specialty place, it fits. I don't think I'd run all S meshes across the board. But there are some places where it's sort of a magic mesh, and it really does do the job if you can keep them from breaking. Clumsy worries me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's that one key word in there. The next question, I feel like could go either way. I feel like there's a little bit of sarcasm in here, but it's, will screen printing have a place in the digital revolution? I just want to know in that question, what is your take on all the new digital stuff? I have an opinion that it's just a tool in the tool belt, and screen printing is not going anywhere. It's just kind of like another way to do things. But how do you feel about the whole thing? Especially now with like DTF and digital and hybrid and all that stuff.
Been in and out of M&R over the last, I guess not 2 years, the last year, and gotten some behind the scenes, behind the curtain with the Polaris rollout. And the first time Michelle kind of went over it with me and fired it up, I kind of stood there with my mouth open, just thinking, everything I know has just been flushed down the toilet. They're running 300 plus an hour, and every single piece is a different image. High-speed digital, and she's done the work to actually optimize and create way better DTG prints than are really out there, whether it's the Maverick or the Polaris.
Yeah. I
say that, but the entry price on that's $825,000. And it's just like DTG early opened a new market that now something like the Polaris may fit into, where the unit of one, everybody gets a custom shirt, everybody orders a custom shirt, is kind of a business unto itself. And certainly there's crossover into what it is we do. But I still think that we've got some time as screen printers. I think at one point the idea may be that we're plugging in different sections into something like a Polaris, where we're doing, it seems to me, they don't offer it this way, but it seems to me that you could customize it and add stations for maybe screen print mixed with, or maybe you plug in some type of 3D printer or we know the single pass is probably not too far out of line technology wise. It's too expensive right now, but all of this stuff was too expensive just a few years ago, and now it's much more practical. So I think the hybrid space is here to stay. I think screen printing still's got a life, and I'm just hoping long enough for me to retire. How about that? And if you really step back and look at all the screen printers in the world, there's tons of us. There's still tons of us, and there's still tons of screen printer merchandise. And no, it's not every single piece is individual and customized, but there's still we need a stack of shirts that are all the same. And that's still going to be the most practical for a while to screen print, I think.
Mm-hmm. And also a stack of shirts that are maybe just one color. So why would you?
Exactly. It's still going to be cheaper.
Well, that's why I said tool in the tool belt is, you have, say, a press like a Cobra or G3 or whatever, and you put a digital squeegee on it. It's like you could do the math and figure out for your shop screen costs and ink mixing and all this other stuff. Like anything over a 4-color gets printed on the DS. Anything under a 4-color gets printed regular screen print. And having the hybrid, you're still doing some screen printing, and then you can do special effects printing on top of the digital and everything else. So I just feel like it's a tool. I feel like a lot of people are getting kind of shaken and scared right now and seeing all this other stuff. It's just like basic screen printer, but I feel like you said, I feel like screen printing is always going to have its place. I just feel like there's a digital aspect now that's more here to stay than just somebody with an Epson DTG machine.
For sure. Cause you can compare large format sign and graphics. Years ago, people resisted digital. Oh, it'll never take a place of screen print. And it certainly did for the most part quickly. But I think our business is still so custom. And I think
it's a quantity thing too. I mean, you don't want to do 15,000 shirts digitally. You throw them on a press.
I have this customer that they're just ferrets in process. So they find it cheaper to run the digital squeegee on 15,000 photorealism types.
Yeah, but like you said a minute ago,
under 400 pieces an hour.
Like you said a minute ago, it's $825K. I could buy 8 Cobras.
Yeah.
So, and I could print 8 times, like as many. So I don't know. So I think it definitely has its place. I think, like Dylan said, that it's sort of if you have the work for it. I think that machine, specifically the Polaris sort of has a special application for a special customer. Obviously sure. I'm not going to buy the Polaris. Dylan isn't going to buy it, but there are customers.
I'm not going to buy it.
I mean, there's shops out there though that is their thing. They print on demand or whatever it is, and they have the business for it, and they're looking for a solution that's perfect for them, and that makes sense for them. And so we don't have that customer right now, so it just doesn't make sense for us.
Sure. I mean, it's amazing, but the point of entry on it, and then if you're serious about it, you almost need 2, because we have this problem in certain parts of our operation. If something goes down, you don't have any redundancy and you're screwed. Something like that you're taking orders, assuming online in a way that's, you got to deliver in 48 hours, whatever the time frame is. If you go down for whatever reason, which you will, because machines break, mm-hmm. What are you doing for the redundancy? Can you have a couple of Epsons to get you through, or do you need 2 Polarises?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like something I learned from my buddy at Acme. He said this to me. It made a lot of sense. It's like I treat my shop like I'm a sailor, like I'm a fishing boat. I'm going to be out on the water a certain amount of time. It's like you need to have 2 of everything, because when something goes down, you need something to take its place, or you're fucked. And that's true with the screen printing shop. It's like having 2 dryers that can handle your presses, having 2 air compressors, having, especially if you're doing screens, like, do you have a backup for your eye image or whatever if that goes down? It's like a lot of people don't. They just have one, and then when it goes down and the tech can't help them fix it, like immediately, they're screwed.
Do you know what double minimums is? the term double minimum. So it's sort of like you were saying, only instead of equipment, you're talking about supplies. So
I have
let's
that
say you
here. We have 2 of everything.
yeah, emulsion. Let's say let's say our minimum emulsion is to have in our shop at any one time is 10 gallons. Okay. Well, you should have, that really is your double minimum. So we really should have 20 gallons. You know what I mean? Because once you hit that number, you need to place the order, because what happens if it's cold outside and it can't ship, or what happens if there's, well, these days supply shortages and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, we do that with ink. We just have 2 of every color. So when you're out of the first color, you order, and then you pull forward the other one. And then when the new order comes in, it takes the place of the second, and so on.
Right.
Makes sense. Sure.
All right. Lon, do you have any questions for us or any shop hacks you want to share?
How did you guys get together?
Love.
I thought it was probably something like that.
Yeah. He has soft skin. Same thing, just, knowing each other in the industry, and we talked a lot, and we decided that we wanted to talk some more together on Sundays, spend our Sundays together.
How do your wives feel about that?
They're jealous of our love. It was like the other day, me and my wife were out, and we were coming over this hill at the top of the mountain or whatever, and we came over the crest of it, and she's like, "Oh, there's a beautiful sunset. Don't you need to take a picture to send it to Andy?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I probably should."
But you didn't.
But I didn't. Do you have any shop hacks that you can think of that were something you learned over the years that was handy that you don't hear everybody talk about every day?
As I was listening to several of your episodes, for the most part, I would just give big picture type of hacks, and all these things are, like I said, the catalog that you keep of all your experiences. And I think it's so much easier today to be connected to other decorators that they've likely experienced whatever it is you're wrestling with. Somebody in your circle just dealt with that last week. Somebody in your circle probably dealt with it 20 years ago. It's fun to listen to the hacks, because it's like, oh, I remember learning that back in so-and-so. Oh yeah. And there's always a little twist to it, or, oh, I didn't think about doing it that way. And it's so easy to reach out anymore and we get some quick help. And that's, that'd be it's not a hack, but maybe advice is, don't hesitate to ask.
Yeah.
People are so friendly and so willing to share that if you got a question, ask. You might be surprised at how many people that have experienced the same thing. We're doing the same things that Joe Clark did. Rest his soul. We're not reinventing the wheel. So there's so many of these kind of things that make your job easier. And I was talking to one of our customers in actually Alabama, and said, how do you get connected to these people? It's like, it's too easy. You just look, get your production manager, your operators that show an interest, connected in some of these groups or social, like you said, you got to keep them small so that they don't get kind of overrun, but there's ways to be inside the community and be influenced, and also be an influencer just by associating and sharing.
I think that's the perfect answer from a consultant / teacher. Like, there's no dumb question. Is that what I'm hearing? Is there's no?
Yeah, that's it.
And just to reach out, I agree with that fully. Cause me and Andy are in 4 groups, that are just text groups or Slack groups or whatever. And it's true. We do it all the time. We'll run into an issue or just something we're struggling with or thinking about, and we'll just put it out to the group and say, hey, I'm going through this. What do you guys think? And they're all on par with us or higher or lower or whatever. And they all have suggestions. And it's like 9 times out of 10, I feel like I get my question answered. It's not like putting it on Facebook, because as soon as you put a question on a Facebook group, you get fucking pummeled with like, you're an idiot. What a noob. Like all this other shit. It's like, if you have a group of like 5 to 10 guys or gals or whatever that are just as interested in improving as you are, like they're always supportive of like, yeah, you should do this, or I ran into this and I had this issue, and so on.
I think we're pummeled a little bit sometimes, but then they come back and are
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the fun part.
Those are the helpful groups or situations that everybody's got and that's what I would say has probably been in the last few years, is actually realizing I don't know everything, and maybe somebody younger than me might have some advice for me if I just ask. And I think that's taken me a bit to kind of figure out, especially, like I said, I'm the craftsman. I can tell you all about stencil thicknesses, but all I can do is complain about employee taxes versus tell you have any advice. But somebody else probably knows exactly what I'm dealing with a workman's comp claim or some shit like that they're smarter about certainly than I am.
Oh, I agree. Well, Andy, you ready for quick takes?
Yes, I am, Dylan. Lon, are you ready?
Okay.
All right. Number 1, what is one thing you need every day?
A drink?
Don't say coffee.
No.
A drink of?
Sadly, a drink. Maybe. I've been taking 3 or 4 days off a week. A cocktail.
You have a drink right now, don't you? Have you been sipping something this whole episode?
I have. This is my vodka soda with a strawberry in it.
I was wondering what was in it. It looked like a radish or something. I was like, that sounds fucking gross.
That is gross.
All right. I got question 2. Hold on. Favorite snack?
Favorite snack? Probably a pizza guy. I know that's not a snack, but cold pizza, it don't last in the refrigerator too long. Mm-hmm. Breakfast, lunch, snack.
Well, being from Colorado, do you guys have good pizza?
We don't have special Colorado kind of pizza, but we can get everybody's pizza.
Mm-hmm. Like a New York style pizzeria in Colorado.
Yeah, we got New York, we got Chicago, we got. So I kind of like the thin, crispy crust type of thing.
New York
crust, because I'm
and they probably got an Olive Garden, right?
Oh yeah, we got Olive Garden.
So
Andy's favorite. Okay.
Where is your happy place?
On my boat with my family.
Do you have
like a party barge or like a boat where you're just like cruising all the time?
We have a Mastercraft wake boat that we bought brand new in '99. And it's still in perfect condition, almost. It has a LT1 Corvette motor in it. And we have taught hundreds of people to wakeboard and water ski and slalom and air chair and surf. And it's just what we love to do. Haven't had it out in a year and a half. I've been so busy working and surviving. It's coming out this year. I got about, a shitload tied up in stereo in it. We can rock the lake. We have a good time. That's my happy place.
That's awesome. Let's see. What are you watching right now? Are you watching any good shows or movies or?
I picked back up Ozark again. That's some twisted shit right there.
Are you on the new season, like the part 1?
Just started the new season. And it's funny, my family all got together and we rented a house on Lake of the Ozarks just a couple of 3 years ago, 3 years ago.
It's not far from Andy.
Nope.
Oh,
yep.
Flowers. It's cool. I'd love to. I've never experienced anything like it's like there's $10 million homes all the way to trailers on the edge of this water.
And mega yachts all the way down to nothing, like,
Yeah, it's just, I mean, I think it's one of the few places that call it Redneck Riviera because it's probably one of the few places that ordinary people could actually afford to put a home on the lake. There's plenty in the 500,000 range. I think you could find something in that range. Not as nice as 10 million, I'm sure, but a little nicer than a trailer.
Yeah. Speaking of Ozark, Ruth has her own, or not her own, but she's in another show that it was number one. Yesterday. I saw it was trending as number one on Netflix. I can't remember what it's called, but it's about where she, like a true story based on a true story where somebody was impersonating like a German heiress or something like that.
Oh, really?
It's good too.
I can't wait for you to get later in the season because Ruth loses her shit. She's just fucking screaming all the time. She has that annoying voice. Like when she's yelling, it's just like so much more intense. It's like, holy fuck.
No, she does a good job with that character. Oh yeah. I mean, what's weird about it is, I'm not from there, but I'm a lake person, and visiting there, you could kind of see this maybe being somewhat legit in. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like, this is pretty weird. The different bait shops we went to pick up bait, and the different little bars we went to have a beer on the water. And it's like everybody is half fucked up all the time on that lake. But we had a good time. I love it. I like going there. I guess the way the water table is, they keep it at the exact same level all the time. So that's how they're able to put all those boathouses. Everybody has a boathouse or a dock, and they're like in pristine condition because the water level doesn't go up and down. Right. Lakes that they figure out how to manage it and keep it all at one level.
That's cool.
Well, this is perfect lead into this question. So I think you probably already answered it, but speedboat or sailboat?
Speedboat. Got to go fast.
Could see Lon on a sailboat.
I mean, they both sound good, but yeah, that's.
Well, yeah, I'd be all right. Just put me on the water. Sounds good.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Grow up. I think one of you guys' shows with Justin, I think breathing and slowing down, enjoying the time when you're young. And we still have a lot of fun, but my daughter's 28 and married and lives 8 hours away from us. And I kind of don't remember when she was really little, just so busy being busy and thinking you're building your future and all those kinds of things. And I only had one daughter, one kid. Enjoy that time when you're young and when they're young, probably something along those lines.
It's a good solid advice. Andy?
Yeah. And I'm getting pretty hungry. So this is, I'm glad this is the last question. What is for dinner tonight?
I might order a pizza. I'm by myself. My daughter or my wife is a volleyball coach for 15-year-old club girls, and they are in Greeley at a 3-day tournament. So it's just me and my dog Jax, and she doesn't let me give him people food. So I might order a pizza and share it with him.
Slide some off the table.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We hang out on the beanbag. He eats a piece and drinks out of my glass and play there.
Eats the strawberry at the end.
Yeah. Watch Ozark in the dark or something. Just
nice.
Like that.
Might not get any leftovers tonight then.
Probably not. That way she doesn't know I ordered a pizza on Monday.
Well, speaking of Justin Lawrence, our friend SoFine69 connected us. Yeah, he actually helped arrange this whole thing. And so thanks to him.
Yes, he did.
That's for sure.
We love Justin.
It was great talking to you. Yeah, love Justin.
We were disc golfing when he said, "You need to be on the shirt show." I said, "What?" And then he texted all of us, and I went, "Oh, that sounds awesome. That would be great."
When is Justin not disc golfing?
That's the first time I ever did it. And I was like, it seems kind of weird, lame, goofy. I didn't know it was such a thing. That's freaking fun. I live on 5 acres, so I'm going to go buy a hole and some discs and start goofing off and figuring out how to do it. That's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again, Lon, for coming on and doing this with us. We really appreciate all the knowledge and everything you have. It's been fun.
And my hair.
Oh, and your hair. Fuck yeah, definitely.
It's COVID hair. COVID's over.
Where can people find you? So if they want consulting services or put you on a retainer and things like this, where can they find you?
GraphicElephants.com or Lon@GraphicElephants.com.
Just email Lon directly for everything.
Email me.
Right.
Just email me. We'll hook you up. Thank you guys for doing it. I think this is really cool.
I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. We'll see you guys soon.
Later, man.